Morena, everybody. Morena, everybody. We'll pull our meeting together now. Thank you. We're live streaming. Welcome to the universe. Ngā mihi o te ahura kia koutou a tēnei ki te whakanui e te kaupapanui tēnā koutou katoa. Kia ora everybody and welcome to our Environment Committee this morning, and I'd just like to start with a karakia. Whakataka tahau ki te uru, whakataka tahau ki te tonga, kia mā kina kina ki uta, kia mā taratara ki tai, e hiaki ana te ata kura, he tio he huka, he hauhu, te hei mauri ora. So thank you very much, and firstly let's do apologies.
Apologies from Quentin for lateness.
Yes, so that's all in one. So moving that.
I'm happy to move that.
And Councillor Nash is seconding that. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against, the motion is carried. Thank you. Any conflicts of interest to be declared above and beyond? No, all good. Great, thank you. So we are going now to public participation. So welcome to those who have come along to our committee today. We have 4 speakers, one of which is online. So Bill McCauley from... Oh, no, sorry, Rose Swindles. Rose? Oh, we'll do Rose first. Is that Bill? Sorry. You're next, Bill. Thank you. Good practice run up. Welcome, everybody. So if you could all introduce yourselves, and you have the floor.
Kia ora koutou. I'm Chris Montgomery, the team leader at Enviro Schools here at Greater Wellington, and it's my I'm very lucky every year to be able to bring along for the community part of the meeting some people who bring the young people's perspective, and Rose is here today to bring the perspective of very, very young people in our community today. Mariah Kindy's been a very committed Enviro school for a number of years. They're on quite an urban site, so for many years they've been connecting with Brooklyn's Central Park as their local space for a lot of nature connection, and Rose will talk a little bit about the program. And introducing her, I've got Chandra Littlewood here, who's part of the team working on Wellington City and Porirua projects, and Chandra was also previously a teacher at Mariah and very involved in that program. She's a proud Brooklyn resident. She's a member of the Friends of Central Park and a trapline maintainer, and now a stream nerd through the work that she's been doing with the park. So I'll pass it over to Chandra first.
Cool. Do I use this to change the slide? Oh, yeah. Cool. Yeah, kia ora koutou, ko Chandra toko ingoa. As Chris said, I work with the Enviro Schools team in Wellington and Porirua. But prior to this year, I was a kaiako at Mariah, and last year, Mariah Kindergarten were part of the City Nature Challenge, a special event in the Central Park at night. And part of that, Mountains to See Wellington ran a spotlighting session, and that became part of a documentary, which is a little screenshot on that slide of that. Where the Wild Things Are was the title of that, if you've seen it. And so this year we wanted to run the same event. City Council were keen for us to do that. Mountains to Sea wasn't available. We were really lucky that we had someone from Greater Wellington, Amy Galt from the Fish Passage team, came and led that. So that's the other nighttime photo with the torch that you can see. And that was a really exciting event. Afterwards, we did a little bit more exploring upstream and discovered a lot more species that we didn't know were there. So native fish and tuna and koda. So it was really exciting to be able to share that information with the Friends of Central Park and also with the team at Mariah Kindergarten. It's really exciting to uplift the mana of that stream in that community space. So Mariah Kindergarten, we're super keen to be part of that and more learning. So we're really lucky to be part of a wānanga that Te Atiawa ki Whakarongotai ran, looking at Ikawai Tauda, which is creating fish ladders from te koka leaves rather than the sprat plastic ropes that normally go into awa. So yeah, I'll hand over to Rose to talk more about that, but they're really enthusiastic. They've created their own, and it's now in the awa, in the Moturoa awa. So yeah, I'd love Rose to share more about the story. Kia ora.
Cool. Kia ora everybody, my name's Rose. I'm the head teacher at Mariah Kindy, and actually what I thought I'd do is I thought I'd kind of just describe for you the process of taking between 6 and 10 2 to 5 year olds to Central Park. So we obviously fill out a form. We pack a bag with all the things you can imagine: first aid kits, nappies, raisins, water bottles. But but we also pack a treasure bag and a rubbish bag every time we go to Central Park, which is weekly. Then we have the mammoth task that takes longer than we ever, always takes longer than we think, of getting everybody to do a wee and put their shoes on and their sun hats or their gumboots or their raincoat. And then we walk out the gate. And for the littlest legs, it's quite a long way to walk along Webb Street, up Brooklyn Road. But luckily we have the button to push at the pedestrian crossing. We've got lots of enormous trucks to wave at. Sometimes they toot at us, which is often terrifying. And we've got the vet hospital on the way. So those are the things that help us to get there. And then we get to this little turny round gate to get into Central Park. And it's really miraculous, even the littlest legs, what happens to them when they go through that gate. Because suddenly they're under the trees. There are, at the moment, there's lots of rhododendron flowers on the ground. It smells different at the moment as well because there's all this daphne along that path. It's cooler in the summer. It's much cooler in Central Park. And the children, their energy changes and they are regulated in a different way by coming into that natural environment. And it's amazing. And so we walk into the park and we say a little mihi in Māori and in Hebrew to the trees and the environment. And then we choose which path to go up. And no matter what path we go, there's always one spot we always stop, which is the dinosaur eggs. And if you know Central Park, there's those concrete sculptures. We stop there. And now there's another spot that we always stop, which is to check on our fish ladder. And we wove our fish ladder. You can see the children up there weaving it with Chandra out of tea coca leaves. And then Amy, our new friend, put it into the awa with us. And now every time we go to Central Park, we go and check on it. And we have a little audio clip, which is the children's voices talking about it. So maybe we could play that now. Oh, what happened? That looks like Renee's.
If tuna comes up, even fishes come up.
How did we make it?
We help each other.
Yeah, we helped each other. Can you remember plaiting the tea coca leaves all together?
Yeah. I always dream about it.
You dream about it?
Always.
That's awesome. What do you think we might find there?
I don't know. What about if we can get a glow-worm? No, glow-worms are only at night. Yeah.
What goes in the fish ladder? Can you guys remember?
Tuna. And even there's some eel.
Yeah.
It is actually eel.
So that gives you a sense of, that real deep connection that our tamariki have, but also the knowledge they're gaining about the natural environment from this frequent connection that we have with Central Park. And my last sort of thing that I want to share with you is, of course, we have to leave Central Park. So as teachers, we get really good at, forecasting that because it's hard to leave the park. Luckily, it's downhill most of the way back to kindy. And you'll see from the slides, our kids do lots of art inspired by tuna and fish ladders, but we also, at least twice a year, have an event in which you can bring your families to Central Park. And so we have a Jewish festival in February called Tu B'Shvat, which is a festival of trees. And then we also have a really special event where families come for matariki, and we look for glowworms, and this year we also looked for koda in the river. And so that kind of love and connection for the park spreads to the whānau, and it really is kind of a jewel in our curriculum. So thank you.
Thank you, and I had the opportunity to ask if anybody's got any questions. Councillor Saw, but I just want to say, we always think that it's quite hard to corral this lot for a field trip. So I think you win.
Yeah. Just have to make sure they go for a wee before they go, right?
Okay,
Yeah.
noted. Very much. Councillor Saw.
What did you say?
It's the same.
Yeah. Lovely to see you, Rose. Nice to meet you, Chandra. Nice to see you, Chris. Thanks for this. This is always, it's always nice to sort of connect what we do here around this table to what it actually means to our community, and that sort of intergenerational aspect of it. I'm really interested to know, as ECE teachers, where do you see the pathway or the transition to further levels of education? So you've started this at ECE level where the ākonga have awareness of their natural environment, and do we still have a local curriculum? Like it might fit into that. So what can you see as opportunities when your ākonga transition to school into compulsory, and how is that being supported through Enviro schools? And I've got another question after that.
Do you want to talk to that, you guys?
So a big part of our what Enviro schools aspire to do is having that transition, and so helping ECE and local schools build a connection and a relationship, so that transition, especially coming from somewhere where you might have all these practices and then going to a school where it's not, how has that become more valued when our tamariki go to school? And so Enviro schools is working with kaiako on that. Some schools in ECE already have a close relationship, so it's easy to make that connection, but for others, especially with like self-regulation or learning how to be resilient in that change, it's actually having those familiar parts of nature connection and play in those spaces to be fostered. So we support our schools to do that, and we make that clear between our EC and schools if they want us to be coming in to talk with schools, that we also do that. Yeah. Do you have anything?
No, I mean, it's always a challenge as the young people get moved through the school system, but there is, we do have a lot of kaiako connection points where the teachers meet each other, from a local region. So there's, as well as what Enviro Schools is offering, there's also those side conversations around opportunities or amazing experiences that one school or early childhood might have had in Central Park, then just sort of feeds on to what possibilities that teachers might see for others that they can do. Yeah.
Is that something Enviro schools can strengthen though? Like if you got those relationships, is that?
Yeah, we do as much as we can do with the time that we've got available.
And Rose, it was really beautiful to hear about sort of brings back memories of being parent help on school trips. When you talked about those opportunities for whānau to connect with this experience, can you see where there might be further resources, or is that an opportunity to raise awareness for whānau about their urban stream environment? Like, is there anything you can see there that we could provide, or is that the moment there? Are there anything's lacking or anything we could strengthen in that space?
Yeah. We were really lucky for our Matariki event to have Chandra and Chloe supporting us, and they spent most of their time talking to the parents about the stream. So that was fantastic in terms of, the parents are not as familiar with that environment as their children are. The children know it really well. They're there every week. The parents are not. So anything in which, I would love Amy to have been there as well to talk about, because she seems to be able to find coda just in magic, like magic. Yeah. So I think, having access to like clever experts for parents is such a gift. And, I think the other thing is that a safe way in for parents is through their children's interests. So, when you've got parents there, it's a great way for them to be accessing those extra resources. Yeah. The other thing I just finally say about your first question, as an ECE teacher, the most important education is when you're between 2 and 5. So I have no doubt, even if it doesn't follow through exactly at school, that the learning that those children have, and the love and the connection and the knowledge that they have about the natural environment will stay with them for the rest of their lives.
Oh, thank you. I was at the hui on Saturday for predator-free kapiti, and a number of groups have started up very early on in their journey, and some people there from different communities that are interested in starting ones up. A very common theme coming through was a question around enviro schools and how can we get students involved and enviro schools. So particularly maybe just a question as in have something to think about and for us to discuss offline is that how can we boost that in kapiti or find a way for the two to connect. So that's great. So thank you so much. And I'm just thinking field trip. Next time we do a field trip team, maybe it's building or creating our own fish ladder and see how we can do compared to other experts. Yeah. 2 to 5 year olds. Yeah. Lovely. So thank you so much for coming. Thank you for all that you do and the kaupapa you have at your kindergarten. So it's just beautiful that you come and shared that with us, because it's this is why we're all here, is for for our environment. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Lovely. So our next one is Bill. Thank you, Matt. Thanks, Bill. Come on up. Welcome. If you could just push the button on the right, and then red light. Beautiful.
There we go.
Thank you.
Kia ora tatou. And I've got to say I'm very encouraged by the kindergarten presentation. So, well done. My name's Bill McCauley. I'm secretary of the Friends of Taupo Swamp and Catchment, which the name kind of tells you what I want to talk about. So the catchment of Taupo Stream is actually quite large, showing in the blue, the 2 shades of blue there, is all of the rainwater that falls in the catchment, and it runs out onto Plimerton Beach. On the left-hand side in blue, you can see Pororua Harbour. So the green area, fringed by yellow border, is Taupo Swamp. And interestingly, the wetland system has actually got a number of private landowners on the fringe areas, Plimerton Farm development is in the same, has got wetlands in the same area. The bulk of it is, of course, owned by QE2 National Trust, and that's the flax swamp that we see when we drive up what used to be State Highway 1. But Porirua City Council also owned part of it, New Zealand Rail are part of it, NZTA, and this is where GW comes into it. So what's in green is the Taupo Swamp Complex K&E, the key native ecosystem, that's overseen by GW. So our group, Friends of Taupo Swamp and Catchment, we work to protect and enhance the special values of the swamp as a key native ecosystem. And since we started in 2019, we've planted 18,000 appropriate wetland trees and plants in that part of the swamp that's owned by Porirua City Council. And of course, the two things that are at top of mind for us are water quality and biodiversity. And as evidence of the restoration starting to work, we're now regularly seeing matata or fern birds when we're working there. And if we play a recording, they come to the sound. Also, we have seen, and this is much more rare, the mataku hurapo, the Australasian bitterns in the restoration area. So it is indicative that both the predator-free work that's been going on now for 8 or 10 years, plus the restoration, is starting to have an effect, because both those birds are key signalers that that the wetland system is healthy. And so this is a early morning shot a couple of months ago, showing the main part of the Harakeke swamp. When we were doing we did 1,000 or so trees in June, planted, that is. So only about 3% of the original Wellington area wetlands remain in place. So Taupo Swamp is a treasure, and it's threatened by changing land use. And in particular, I want to talk today about forestry harvesting. So if you think back to the map, the aerial map I showed earlier, which showed the K&E area, which is the green bit in the middle. On the left-hand side, with the blue boundaries, you can see that there's a pine forest that's due for harvesting shortly. And you'll see that it's extremely close to the main trunk railway line, which is in that red zone, and the K&E, the wetland swamp system itself. So Farm and Turkington Forestry intend to commence harvesting those pines adjacent to the swamp later this year. They were going to start in August, but they have been delayed because Porirua City Council has not allowed them to bring 40 and 50 tonne logging trucks through narrow streets, roads that are likely to crumble, and down through the main street of Plimerton Village.
Bill,
So,
can I just check, have you got much more of your presentation
not
left?
much more. No.
Thank you.
So these hills are highly erodible, and the forestry company is not doing anything that's outside our regulations. They're within the regulations. I would note that our concern really, though, is for the potential for silt and slash to damage the wetlands. And we know plenty of examples from recent years, from recent ones in Motueka, Nelson, Gisborne, we can go on. In particular, the concern is that this forestry harvesting is so close to a really rare piece of wetlands. This is a piece of land adjacent to the forestry, so you can see the amount of this sediment damage occurred about 3 years ago. So very steep hills, as you can see, very erodible soil, and this is without any pine forest coming off it. This is just from farmland and the standing trees. It actually put the main trunk railway line at severe risk of a culvert blowout and the whole line being closed. As it was, a huge amount of sediment ended up in the Taupo swamp. This area does flood two or three times a year. There's flooding that occurs in there. So how can you help Taupo swamp? Well, we would like an assurance that the silt, the landslip, the slash mitigation is well inspected before the work starts, and that close attention is paid to the compliance and monitoring during the harvesting. I don't need to go into the technical elements of it, but things like sediment pond collection and the removal of sediment from the site so it doesn't just accumulate. So that's my request of you, and I should also note my appreciation for our group that we have tremendous support from your staff who are doing environment community funding, doing predator control, weed control, and the administration of the key native ecosystem. So that is tremendous. We've got a really good working relationship with all of those people and the City Council staff officers as well.
Right. Thank you, Bill. If it's okay, we'll close there, and we've got just needing to keep on time with things, but I've got Councillor Ponta's got a question, and then Councillor Wolf.
Yeah, morning, Bill. Thanks for that presentation. So my question relates to not this cycle, but the next cycle. So I'm presuming that this forestry company has a long-term lease or owns the land, and once they have clear felled or removed the trees, they will replant.
Well, if I can just interrupt, typically the forestry harvesting process works on the basis that the landowner is different to the forestry harvester. So the forestry harvester takes a cut, quite often 50%, and does all of the work. I don't know what the landowner's intentions are after they have harvested the pines.
Okay. I suppose my observation, Madam Chair, is that in the life of this forest, which is presumably these trees are being taken off at about 25 to 30 years.
Yep.
In the life of this forest is almost the life of the Resource Management Act. And over that time, the ratchet has turned in relation to environmental compliance and what have you for these types of operations. And I suppose the observation is that an activity that might have been okay in the 1990s in a relatively fragile area like a swamp may not be appropriate in the 2020s, and so I think that's something for us to look at as a regional council in relation to this piece of land.
I think you're right, and also the technology of forestry harvesting has changed hugely, and the truck size is way bigger. So in another 25 years, it'll be certain to be different again.
Yeah. Okay,
Thanks,
Bill.
Councillor Wolf.
Thank you very much for what you do. Firstly, other bird life, New Zealand dabchick, is that something that's there? Oh, sorry. New Zealand dabchick?
Not that I'm aware of, Councillor.
So, in that regard, I can give you an assurance that we around the table will be monitoring what happens out there, if I get on or not. I'm out there, and I can't believe that you've got New Zealand bitten, Australasian bitten there, because in my career as a photographer, I've never seen one. I've sought them, but never seen them.
Yeah.
And to have them in our region, you wouldn't believe how special
Yeah,
that is.
I know.
Along with the fernbird, which
Yeah.
only 2 years ago in this area I saw. You
So-
guys are rocking. Thank you.
Yeah, and it kind of gives us huge encouragement, to keep doing what we're doing.
I think whoever gets around this table will keep a really good monitor on what goes on there. And you can always come to us.
Thank you.
So long as some of us are here.
Exactly.
But even if some of us aren't,
Yeah.
you can.
Thank you. Microphone. Look, we'll thank you very much for coming in. Much appreciated. And I think on behalf of everybody, we say thank you to you and your group. Really appreciate the wonderful work you're doing, and it's really inspiring to actually have that kind of information come back, and so encouraging that, and it encourages us to continue to be brave about ensuring we do these sort of things in partnership with our community. So thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. So now we're going to online with Blade Williams, beaming in from where, Blade? Could we have that microphone off?
Put it on. Hello. Can you hear me?
Blade. Hi, Blade. I'm
Hello.
Gaylor. I'm Penny Gaylor. I'm the chair. Welcome, and you have the floor.
Oh yeah. So what I'm working on is a seaweed-based wastewater mitigation solution. So what I want to do is something very similar to what Mountains to Sea does, but apply it to mitigate wastewater within Titai Bay. Could we just go to the next slide? Yeah. So this is pretty much my team. So we're just like a bunch of mana students working on a project like this. So this has actually been like 5 generations of students in the making to do something like this project. But no one has actually gotten ever as far as close as we have. We've already gained support from the Puriro City Council, but they told us that we'd need to go for you guys, and then they'll be able to support our project and whatnot. So can we just go to the next slide? So this is pretty much what motivates us. Like we're learning a lot about like Titai Bay and the environment and whatnot, and like how like there is a plan to restore bodies of water in Puriro, but us personally, we don't want to have to wait till like 2050 to do that, because I'll be like 30 or 40. Next slide, please. Can someone please go to the next slide? So these are what we learn about in marine studies, the aspects of sustainability. And we think that our project would be able to link all of these, including economically. Puriro spends millions on wastewater mitigation, and I think if we were to use a biofilter for that wastewater, especially when it's untreated, we could save a lot of money and ease the pressure on water rates and our PCC, because it is quite a big problem. And socially, I think it would also help culturally and whatnot because of its significance to iwi and locals within Titai Bay. And it is a historical significance that has kind of been reduced over time because of its pollution. And obviously our project would environmentally help in a lot of ways by being a biofilter for nitrate, phosphorus, and heavy metals. Please go to the next slide. Next slide, please. Eclona radiata. This is the kelp that we would like to use. It already shows up in Titai Bay. So what we would look to do is get nets of rope and put them together in a really big net, but with thick rope, and then chucking that in water with areas of Titai Bay that have Echelona radiata and letting it grow naturally over time and seed itself in the rope. And what the rope does is provide a surface area for it to grow on. So over time, it will grow on there. And then over time, we would look to get heaps of nets and then put them in wastewater polluted areas. Next slide, please. So yeah, it would look something like this picture here, but we would have it in a net shape with a buoy to keep it afloat, but also something to weigh it down, but keep it 1 meter under the surface, just so that like it's out of the way and whatnot. But we'd like a area of the bay to place these, like obviously where they're not like gonna get hit by boats and whatnot. Next slide, please. Unless you guys are still reading. Yeah. So what we're seeking pretty much is minimal funding. We can already get heaps of resources from people that have already offered lots of resources to us. So resources isn't really an issue, but the only issue is having funding, lots of rope, and a couple of buoys for each net and something to weigh them down in the water. So it is, money-wise, it's quite cost efficient and also high environmental impact. And it's honestly an investment considering how long the seaweed will live on the rope. And the reason why I'm speaking to all of you guys today is because I thought I needed permission from the Porirua City Council, and they're all like, oof, not our permission to give. You know what? We'll try to get you to the Wellington Regional Council. So that's why I'm here talking to you guys today, so that me and the PCC can work together along with the iwi and Mana College to work on this issue and make it more sustainable way before 2050. And ultimately, I kind of need your guys' legal permission and whatnot, and probably a published article. So what we're doing, it's not an original idea, but it's the only thing of that idea being done in New Zealand. The only people doing anything close is Mountains to Sea, but their thing isn't about wastewater mitigation. Their thing is about just restoring like seaweed forests and whatnot. So we're pretty much pioneering an idea right now. And we definitely like a published article about it. If you guys have any connections, that way we can widespread that youth can have an impact on the environment and be involved in high impact solutions. And what we would like is to raise more public interest and gain support from the public. Yeah.
Awesome. Is that presentation, Blade?
Can we just quickly check for the other slides? I'm not sure what else I wrote.
Oh yeah, time.
Timestamp. Oh yeah. So I reckon over weeks and months the kelp would grow on the rope, and I think if we have enough net ropes, we could definitely get a fair bit on there. But what I would like is a 2 to 5 year permission to do it, because this has been 5 generations of students doing this, setting the groundwork for this to happen. And I think that, you know, even though I've pushed this idea really far enough, you know, even if I don't get it done while I'm still at Mana College, there's still going to be students who take marine studies that are going to still be able to go forward with the idea, but not have to take as many steps as me and be able to work more towards a sustainable future by getting the idea done quick, I hope. But also it would help Mana College with some of their field trips, considering we would have permission to go to a certain area and look at what this biofilter does for the environment. So it really opens up learning opportunities for schools, all sorts of things. And I think it would also help for like students' assessments, especially related to environmental studies. So I think having 2 to 5 year permission would really allow us to work on it as much as possible over a couple of years and eventually build a system where we can have a biofilter uptaking nutrients. Is there any next slides? Yeah, our things low cost, high high environmental benefit, and it's pretty much an investment. Yeah, I'm finished. Just wanted to keep it short.
You can read that. That's awesome. Thank you. So, thank you for the presentation. You know what was good about your presentation? Everything. But specifically, you were really clear about your ask. And so, traditionally, in this format, I then go as the chair straight to questions from colleagues around the table. I'm wondering if first I go straight to officers to give some direction from the table or some questions about that, and then what is not covered, colleagues ask, because I'm going to ask Jack Mace, who Blade is your new best friend, to
Hope so.
cover off what are some things. So I'm seeing in here, we have what we call Jimmy, who is a catchment manager for your area, your other new best friend. We have Enviro schools. You're probably not an Enviro school, but hey, what the heck? Why not? You know, people who have information and there is a fund that you could apply to, but I think the cycle of that is sort of a bit further down the track. So we would miss that timing to help you right now. So, you know, we can share information about that with you, but in the meantime, do some other stuff. And, you know, we do these things called MOUs with our partners and things. So something along that lines might even potentially be that gives you that 2 to 5 year permission or beyond when we set up a structure that is really formal between a partnership between GW, Porirua City Council, for example, and yourselves. So why not? And again, that would be yet another learning experience for you. So that's me just setting the scene of what I'm giving direction, and as I'm looking at Jack to then expand on that, and then we'll regroup to see what questions from the table. Thank you.
Through you, Madam Chair. Yes, thank you, Chair. I think you've laid it out actually perfectly. There's nothing for me to add other than if but you could make sure you contact them services with your contact details or get someone to reach out.
Democratic Services.
Yeah, that's right. The same people you contacted to come speak today. They'll be able to pass on your details to us.
So you're online. See, the dude next to me is Lucas Stevenson, and he's Dem Services, and he will contact you after this meeting. Okay?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Cool. So questions from colleagues? Councillor Rupert?
I want to quickly mihi to you, Blake, for the awesome mahi that Mana College is doing, and I'm really glad to hear that Ngāti Toa is supporting you on this, and I'm glad we've found some solutions from Jack and co. Kia ora.
Adrian? Councillor Staples now, Blade from the Wairarapa.
Thank you, Blake. This is a fantastic program, and I guess I'm just looking forward a little bit. As you said, you've had students who have started on this program and then they've left school, and no doubt you'll be going off in due course. So what arrangements are you putting in place in the college, please, so that this project is handed over? There is some continuity, and when our staff are working with the college, they don't suddenly turn up and, oh dear, that student's gone and the one coming through isn't quite up to speed. So can you just give me an idea, please, how you think you will organise yourself in the college to make sure there's continuity as the students come through?
Well, it's just kind of been built up over 5 years. We haven't been working together over 5 years, but they definitely have left the groundwork and research for me to go off of. And I understand what you mean about like what happens when you leave school, who takes upon this. And we have marine studies at our school. So what their assessments do are things that align with this. And I would imagine this being applied for any marine assessments that they will do. But another thing I forgot to mention is that when it comes to harvesting seaweed, once it's like it's not actually a thing between our school, but definitely like the students itself. One thing I would definitely want, and I've said this to the PCC as well, is that volunteers aren't always reliable, and it's not always guaranteed that there will be volunteers. So one thing I would ask is that we have people from PCC or Greater Wellington Regional Council come out like once a month to Titai Bay to harvest the kelp and then dispose of at Spicer landfill, because the thing is they are toxic once they've taken in those nutrients. And ultimately the goal is once they've taken up those nutrients and heavy metals and whatnot that harm our environment, the goal is to harvest them, dispose of them, let them grow back again. That way it is fully sustainable and we're not re-releasing chemicals into the environment. But when it comes to students themselves, I think it will last a while because my teacher, they do want to continue this even after I've left, and I do imagine that they will with future students, and that future students will work on it or otherwise go there for their research and whatnot. But whether they'll be like involved like as like kind of a union or organization, the future is unclear. But what I would like to do is to have council support or iwi or anyone that can go there to harvest it, because that is the only problem with this.
Great.
Thanks.
Thank you. So what I was thinking as a follow-on from that question and answer, Bill Macaulay, who was our previous speaker, did you hear him, Blade? He's from the Friends of the Taupo Swamp and Catchment Incorporated. So Bill's just still in the room, and I wonder if, because he's involved with a local volunteer group, that they might come and share kind of what their template is for how you gather up and hold volunteers through these environmental programs. Just as, you know, there's a, not to impose on you, Bill, but he's giving me a thumbs up, Blade. So I hopefully that, you know, it's really good opportunities for groups to share what they've learned through setting up and holding together groups of volunteers. So again, Lucas can organise some contact details between the two of you. Okay, and now another question from Councillor Connolly, and then we'll wrap it up.
My final comment, Blade, thank you so much for your presentation. I was just going to mention that Greater Wellington obviously has different strings to our bow, and so you'll probably need to be in touch with the consenting people and the delivery people. That's Jack, who's your new BFF. But also Greater Wellington looks after the harbour master function, and that would be worth teeing up as well, just to ensure that where you're putting the ropes and buoys is out of the way of recreational craft and that kind of thing. So I'm sure Jack will make connections amongst all those different people at Greater Wellington. But thank you for your work.
And thank you.
Great.
Just one thing I want to make pretty clear. After this year, next year, I don't really want any involvement in the project. Like, I still got school and whatnot.
Cool.
Like, I don't really have much time to contribute, but while I still do have time, I do want to set up the groundwork and get it done.
Excellent.
So like for this year and next year, like I can have involvement in it, but like I can't be going out to Titai Bay once a month to harvest and then all that. But that is beyond my capability.
Yeah.
But whether we can get volunteer groups to do that themselves, and like I can work with them, teach them and whatnot, like what I know about it and what it needs, then we can have a fully sustainable thing. But after like a year, I don't really want any involvement. I kind of want to just, like I, like not to be rude, but you know, like I still got assessments, you know, like it's not something I can 100% commit to all my time.
Yeah, thank you, Blade. Well, look, thanks very much. A bit of order around the table. We'll conclude there, and Lucas is going to be looking after the details to getting you connected into people around here. So thank you very much for your time and coming into us. So thank you.
Thank you for letting me speak. I'm sure me and Lucas will work well together. Thank you, Lucas.
Yeah. And great presentation. excellent presentation. Thank you. Very, very savvy, and you know what? You really delivered on that. So thank you. So can I invite the next public speakers, Sue and Stephen Patterson? So you're coming up together, speaking as individuals, and so then you got a presentation, I believe. Yeah. Welcome. Hi.
Hi, I'm Sue Kawhali Pattinson, Chair Gaynor and Councillors Tēnā koutou katoa. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. Steve emailed relevant information to this presentation to all councillors on Tuesday the 26th of August. There's no time to repeat what's in here, but we'll table it now as read. Thank you.
Does this work?
Yeah, that's great, thank you. The Environment Committee is to be applauded for the good work you are doing throughout the Wellington region. This month, Steve and I had the pleasure of visiting Lake Domain Reserve, Barton's Lagoon and Boggy Pond at Wairarapa Moana Wetlands. It was a beautiful day. We were thrilled by all the bird life. We felt genuinely grateful for all the work being done by Greater Wellington staff and others to restore this wetland treasure, as well as other huge environmental projects that Greater Wellington is doing, such as cleaning up the sediment from Porirua Harbour and adding over 1,000 hectares to our regional parks near Pencarrow Head. At Boggy Pond, thank you. At Boggy Pond, we actually heard a bittern. We never saw it. However, Ground Truth have confirmed by recordings that bitterns are there, and I quote, "The number of birds identified concurrently by the stations suggest a possible 5 birds identified at these locations." We want to talk about ground truthing, and we've used this example, this definition from Wikipedia. Ground truth is information that is known to be real or true, provided by direct observation and measurement. The term ground truth can be used as a noun, adjective, and verb. Just a little English lesson. Noun, ground truth. Example, the ground truth is essential for accurate models. Adjective, ground truth. Example, we need to use ground truth data to validate the model. Verb, to ground truth. Example, we need to ground truth results to ensure their accuracy. Greater Wellington's Pinehaven flood model has never been ground truthed. This is evident in Greater Wellington's 10-year flood map on the left. You see that on the left on the screen, which is clearly wrong. It shows larger flood extents than the 25-year flood on the right that happened on the 8th of December 2019. Greater Wellington claims that much of the stream channel has less than a 5-year flow capacity. This is proven wrong during the 25-year flood on the 8th of December 2019. All the stream channels south of the Pinehaven Reserve proved to have at least a 25-year flow capacity. There were two culverts that overtopped on 8th of December 2019. Oh, great. Where's that noise coming from? Sorry. Which we've shown, actually, if you look at the red circles on the map up there, a driveway culvert at 122 Pinehaven Road which caused all the flooding down Pinehaven Road, and a road culvert at 208A Wyndham Road, the upper circle, caused the flooding at 70 to 72 Pinehaven Road. There actually would have been no flooding south of Pinehaven Reserve on the 8th of December 2019 if these two culverts had been fixed. They're not being fixed in the 60 million stream works. You have to ask why not. The next slide. Thank you. Oh, the storm. Hang on, we've just lost a slide. Thank you. The storm on the 8th of December 2019 was a 30-year rainfall event. Greater Wellington's rain gauge at the Pinehaven Reservoir recorded 52 millimetres of rain during the 2 hours between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. NIWA Herd's version 4 identified 52 millimetres of rain in 2 hours as the 30-year annual recurrence interval. Flood engineer R.J. Hall and Associates assessed this as a 25-year flood event. Thank you. That's mine.
So, given that, our previous presenters have had extra time, I'd like to move that this presenter has extra time.
I know they are. Because, yeah, so just carry on as you were. Thank you.
Thank you. Greater Wellington claims that the 23rd of July 2009 flood, which is the only flood which the Pinehaven flood model is based on, was a 5 to 10 year flood event. Sarai Higginson at 5 Birch Grove, on the left there, wrote in her eyewitness statement, "On the 8th of December 2019, the water in the garage rose almost to the top of my gumboots. The previous flood, 23rd of July 2009, it was above my knees." And Ivan Cowell at 12 Birch Grove, on the right there, wrote in his eyewitness statement, 8th of December 2019, water level hitting against the house was approximately 220 millimetres. The July 2009 flood depth of water hitting against the house was approximately 490 millimetres. So the 2009 flood was bigger than the 2019 flood. The flood on the 23rd of July 2009 was not a 5 to 10 year event, but about a 38-year event. Greater Wellington's 13.9 cumex in Pinehaven Reserve for a 25-year flood is about double the actual 25-year flow of 6.8 cumex, which we measured here in Pinehaven Reserve for the 8th of December 2019. And Greater Wellington's 21 cumex of flow at the staff gauge for a 25-year flood is again about double the actual 25-year peak flow of about 11.7 cumex that we measured at the staff gauge on the 8th of December 2019. The result of Greater Wellington's Pinehaven flood model not being ground truthed is that it grossly exaggerates flood flows. As we can see in this scene, the staff gauge shown in this slide, Greater Wellington's 25-year water level is about twice the height of the real peak water level observed during the 25-year flood on the 8th of December 2019. Greater Wellington's 25-year flood level is really about a 500 flood year or more. Greater Wellington staff told the subcommittee at its meeting on the 5th of August 2025 to continue with the stream works based on the current flood model, which has these grossly exaggerated flows and flood extents, and the subcommittee said it was comfortable with that. Greater Wellington's grossly inflated flows only hold sway because the auditor lied to the public in the Becker Pinehaven Stream flood mapping audit. He concealed crucial information that revealed the Pinehaven flood maps, rather than being fit for purpose, are actually fatally flawed. A Becker MWH email chain reveals that rainfall loss inputs were the same in both pre and post-development future case scenario flood modelling, meaning that the impact of Guildford Timber Company future development is incorporated in the current flood extents, resulting in the grossly inflated flows which mask Guildford's runoff. In short, you're flooding us with Guildford's future unmanaged runoff. Councillors may think the Becker auditor's lies are of no material consequence. If so, then you do not understand the adverse consequences of getting a flood model wrong. Quote, the consequence of getting flood hazard assessment wrong varies from catastrophic loss of life to severe property damage. Equally important is to not falsely identify a property under flood risk, as there are financial impacts to the ratepayer, building restrictions and or devalued property. That's from Peter Stevens, AWT, in 2010. Just last slide, please. Thank you. The time for councillors pleading ignorance of Greater Wellington's fatally flawed flood modelling for the Pinehaven catchment is over. We've been presenting this evidence to you for years, as seen in this plea to you in 2020. We urge you now to revoke the flawed Pinehaven flood model and do it again properly, with inputs that are truly representative of Pinehaven catchment, that is, pre-GDC pine tree harvesting and pre-GDC development. And be sure to include ground truthing the model against local flood knowledge. With GDC's development now listed for fast-track approval, the process of rectifying the baseline Pinehaven flood model is now extremely urgent. We urge councillors to begin the process today by revoking Becker's false Pinehaven stream flood mapping audit. We request that you add this item to your agenda today and revoke the Becker flood mapping audit as a mark of good faith that you will rectify the Pinehaven flood model now. Why ruin your good mahi and reputation for the sake of a consultant's false and grossly misleading flood mapping audit? Thank you for this opportunity to speak. We table this presentation and ask that it be included with the minutes of this meeting.
Great, thank you very much. Do I have any questions? Councillor Staples, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And my question probably is aimed more to our officers, if I may, in that in Wairarapa, we did have some evidence that our flood modelling wasn't up to scratch, but it was based on the technology that was available to us at the time. And our latest flood modelling in Wairarapa is we're using much more modern and a much smaller grid. And so my question to officers is whether this flood mapping modelling could be updated using our more modern technology, and whether that's appropriate, because we do know that we now know more. So
Through you, Madam Chair, kia ora, Councillor Staples. We actually presented a paper on this to Te Awa Kairangi subcommittee, and I'd be happy to forward that on to you and to other councillors at the committee if that's appropriate.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Any other questions? No, that's all good. Thank you. And so your presentation...
Sorry, we didn't hear Jack Mace's answer. We couldn't hear his answer.
I'm happy to repeat. We presented a paper on this to Te Awa Kairangi on the question of modelling and updating the modelling for this catchment, and I'll be happy to forward that on to committee members, councillors.
Yep. Thank you. Yes, the subcommittee actually looked at this at their meeting on the 5th of August and decided that Greater Wellington's advice to carry on with the time frame as it is, which is to finish the streamworks now based on this flawed model and do the review of the floodplain management plan and modelling further down the track. And we're completely not happy with that at all, because the model needs to be fixed now, quite clearly. It needs to be fixed now. To leave it until later, the streamworks are being done on grossly over-engineered and at the cost of a massive amount of money that's far beyond a 25-year flood requirement.
Thank you. So, Jack, what you'll be able to forward that to us today, and perhaps you could specifically address in the cover what if there's any additional information you need to provide and direct us to that part of the paper. So we'll get
May
that.
I please add one thing?
Yes, one more
Thank
thing.
you. It's in response to the councillor, I can't see her name, sorry,
Staples.
from
Councillor.
Wairarapa. Thank you
Yeah.
for answering that question. It's not about latest technology and being updated. It's actually the actual map is founded on a lie. They've used the same pre-development losses as the post-development. In other words, they've taken green hills that are highly absorbent and presented them pre-developed as if they're covered in concrete, as they're already built on.
Yeah.
And then they've taken the built model and they've come up with exactly the same answer. Oh,
And-
hey,
and-
there's no flood.
Yeah, thank you. So
And that's
yeah.
that's never, no one allows that on the table in a hearing, we've taken it to our mayor, our Ros Connolly, we've taken it to our councillors, and no one will address that lie.
Yeah.
It's a blatant lie.
Okay.
in the
That's
auditors.
why.
So
that's-
I'll cover things off now. So
Thank you.
staff are going to send that to the rest of us who, of course, previously didn't have that information, and will address your questions. And so we can't, it's not an agenda item for us to discuss and to debate and make any decision on today. We'll get that information to the committee, and then I'll consider as the chair what a next step would be for this committee.
Point
And
of
I don't,
order.
yeah.
Actually, this Environment Committee has received a paper on the Pinehaven works that included the flood modelling. So you have seen this, and it has been before this committee, and this committee endorsed the decisions of the Te Awa Kairangi subcommittee.
Thank you for reminding me about that. So we're not going to go into debate between the chair and the public.
No, I
Thank you.
realise
So I think in that case we just need to be reminded about what we have seen in that. So thank you. So I'll conclude it at that bit there, because I don't want us to get into a debate.
Yes,
That's
but
not the
please,
appropriate way we do business.
That's not a debate. I'm just clarifying our request today.
Yeah.
Is that the Becker Pinehaven flood modelling audit, which was published far and wide by the council, saying that everything's honky-dory, that needs to be revoked. And that is our request today, that you start by revoking that false Becker flood mapping audit.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Cheers. We'll leave that there.
Yep.
and
Thank you.
leave us there. Great. Thank you very much.
Good.
Thank you.
Thanks. Can we just turn that microphone off now? So that concludes our public speaking. And I think we'll just do a couple of matters of item number 4 for the public meetings, the minutes from our last meeting. So have a mover and a seconder for those, please. Councillor Saw has moved, Councillor Ponta has seconded. Anything anybody wants to raise about that? No? In that case, all those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against, the motion is carried. Thank you very much. And then item number 5, we'll do that as well before we then break. So we'll have a mover and a seconder for those. Councillor Laban.
I can answer that.
Yes.
Yes, standing orders requires that all minutes from the last meeting of a committee or subcommittee goes to its parent body at the end of the training year. And Te Awa Kairangi has had its last meeting, so it's appropriate for the Environment Committee to confirm its minutes.
Ooh. Okay, so Councillor Laban moved and Councillor Connolly is second. Any comment, questions, anything? Good. Thank you very much. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against, the motion is carried. Thank you. So let's just do 10 minutes, do we think? That gets us enough time to grab a cuppa, and we'll be back here to carry on with the next item. Thank you. Clank, 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 clank. Right, just going to move that. Okay, Ken, you're not the mayor yet. Sit down. And we're live now, folks. So we're going to gather back into our meeting. So we'll try to not rustle our paper bags. And I just want to say thank you for the belated birthday present, it being my birthday last week and my colleagues didn't notice, so thank you. Oh. I don't live on Facebook, that's right. It's a safe life I live. What have we got in here? So, shall I just let you launch away and explain to us the scene you've set? Welcome.
Ko papatu anaku, ko tangaroa, e tākina mai nei, ki runga i te aro, ki runga i te pane matua tai aue. Tēnei te mi ki kinga, ma te kua mene ki te pō, aire, aire, aire atura. Hoki mai ki tēnei rōpū tai au e no o nei, ngā kaipupuri o ngā taonga tai o te upoko te ikae, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou. Tēnā koutou, e te kaunihira, kei te tuake au ki runga i te whakamarumaru o ōku maunga, ko hikurangi, ko tauhara, ko taranaki ēnā, kei te mihi atu ki a koutou katoa. I'm here today in my role as project lead for Māori Tūhono, and I would like to introduce our paper. And also, I'm taking the paper as read, and would like to introduce our rōpū today, starting with Wairua. This is our tuna, our kaitiaki that we take to hui, and that is our kaipupuri o te Māori and our kōrero. So this tuna comes to us to our hui and holds on to the whakaaro and the kōrero that go on when we talk about Māori Tūhono in our region. I think you might all know Charlene Mawate Davis, our pauarahi, and no, I won't say the name you said I should say, but he said, "Kumbi hana koko." So there you go. That's Santa Claus in Māori, but many of you will know this is Rawiri Smith, our pauarahi also, and Kiri Hawkins, who works on the team, our Māori Tūhono team also. Yes, and so onwards we go.
Ka tuake tēnei ki te mihi atu ki a koutou, ka toa kua tai i runga i te karanga o tēnei tō tātou kaupapa o Māori Tūhono. Koutou, nā kaipupuri o tēnei tō koutou kaupapa o te taiao. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. Mai a mātou, nā kānohi o te rohi nei, ka tuake ki te mihi. Ka huri au ki te reo hoko prawa, engari i te taha o tōku nei pāpahi uri tēnei, no te whakamiringa o ngā iwi e toru. Ko raukawa te au ki te tonga tai atu ki, Ātiawa tai atu ki a Taranaki Tūturu, whakawhiti atu ki a Ngāti Tōranga Tira, ki te wai paunamu ki nai tahu. Te taha o tōku whaia, tōku wai u he uri tēnei no nā kā ui maunga, mai a kaitake ki a paua kaita atu ki a Taranaki Tūturu. Nō reira, kia koutou, kia tātou, tihei mauri ora. It's an honour and a privilege to take these precious moments of yours. We wanted to, I guess, honour you. That's kind of why we're here. And it does feel like Christmas, and it does feel like we've been hana koko. We wanted to honour you because it's you as a collective, it's you as a committee, it's this council who has backed Māori Tūhono and who has shown your support, both financially but through these kinds of resources of people and of these physical resources to make possible our kaupapa. And so the karanga is coming back to you as a thank you and an honouring, because we know some of you won't continue on by choice and others will by vote. And we wanted to, while you were still in committee, in this particular committee, take this time to honour that. So he mihi kawatu kia koutou katoa. And all of your officers, who we also know work really hard to better and to improve and to enhance the kaiao. We mihi to you, the officers and all the kaimahi, the ringa raupā of this kaupapa too. So mihi atu kia koutou. We, as you know, have been kind of holding this kaupapa dear to our hearts for a little while now. And when we first came, we were a different set of people in committee like yourselves, trying to work out what this framework might look like. And we placed before you a karanga from Ranginui and Papatuanuku to listen to their call to be caretakers of their children and those of us that get to kind of experience the taiao every day. And you heard that call, and you heeded that call, and you did that through your continued sponsorship from 20 up until 2034. So we acknowledge that as a huge step. We also wanted to acknowledge that there has been some work along the way, and there has been some movement in people and bodies and people contributing to the kaupapa. So we wanted to share a little bit of that with you today, so that you get a feel for Mauri Tūhono. And as you know, and we were listening to some of the public speakers, we thought, we need to kind of have a convo with Blake, and then we need to have a convo with these people, because some of the very people they need to connect with have shown their support to Mauri Tūhono, and that is what this is all about, kia tūhono hono te Māori. And so we wanted to just kind of share a bit of our story, and you have the paper, but we're going to let the taiao speak, so we want the video.
Like the many woven threads of a fine cloak, the taiao, our natural world, is entwined and bound together, from above, from below, and within. The family of Atua, caught in a dormant state between Ranginui and Papatuanuku, sought the vibrancy of life through light. This primary source of life is encompassed in the light of many whetū in the night sky. It is also seen at the dawn of a new day, when the sun, tamanui te rā, comes together with the air of Tāwhiri Mātea and the waters of Tangaroa. This life touches the abundant soils of Papatuanuku, building vitality for the plants of Tāne Mahuta. This connection between sky and earth continues through the lunar rhythms of Hina, pulling on the tides of Hine Moana, offering a sheltering place for her mokopuna. All this life echoes the pulsing rhythm of the taiao and the earthly tides of our environment. There are many states of Mauri, roughly translated as a life force. We can become aware of Mauri when it is unsettled, Mauri rere. We can become awakened by its energy, Mauri oho. And we can feel it in its dormant state, Mauri noho. The state of Mauri tau is a balanced life force. All these states of Mauri are signs of vitality and diversity. It is while the rhythm is settled and balanced that the dynamic and individual components of life can most easily come together. This is Mauri Tūhono. In te upoko o te ika, We know our special places are not settled. The call from our tuakana is becoming louder, and we are waking up to our role in this unsettling. Like the roots of the kahikatea, we are being called to locate ourselves in community and connect with the pulsing rhythms of Te Tai-ao. Therein lie the answers to Te Tai-ao flourishing. What gifts do you have to share? How can we support each other? How shall we entwine our efforts? Let's join together. We welcome you to connect with this kaupapa.
I guess when you put the taiao as the centre of all of your decision making, it's really important to showcase the taiao. And it became really important for those of us that were responsible for putting together this framework. And I'm looking at Quentin and I'm going, gee, it seems like such a long time ago, but we all did it. And there were many, many people who contributed to the development of the framework. And it's taken time. And I just wanted to say that there was, I think, a 12-month time frame or something originally put on it. But because it's such a big kaupapa biodiversity of Aotearoa, it requires deep thinking. It required lots of conversation. It required us sometimes to even disagree, because we had people who were around a table who were passionate and advocates and kaitiaki of our special places. So voice was important, and so I wanted to acknowledge that inside the framework proper. It wasn't just the delivery of a framework in a really lovely way, and you've got 2 copies of that in your little packs. You have a Reo Māori version, and because we wanted to be inclusive of all of those native speakers, and Patina Winiata graced us with her amazing abilities to not just translate word for word, but to actually, she got the kaupapa and her Māori connected into the purpose of this taonga, and she wrote it from her heart, and she said it was a really easy thing to do because she got it. And so you have 2 copies in your peke, in your bags, an English version and a Reo Māori version, to truly signify the commitment that everybody had as a tiriti-based framework. It has very strong mātauranga theming through it. And so when you read through it, you'll see that. And so for many people, and we were getting that great advice from our wider committee, communicating the importance of this framework for all peoples to be able to participate in it, because we set this really courageous goal. I'm going to look at Quentin. Everyone, everywhere, everybody, everywhere. When we set a courageous goal like that, you really do have to think about what this might mean into the future. What we didn't get hung up on, because it's a framework, was the how. We believed in people being the vehicle, being the catalyst for the how. We just had to make sure that the framework itself was accessible and understandable for people to kind of enter at their own space and place. Oh, he wants to go again, see? Cool. Yeah, I know, it's quite meditative. We kind of like it. And so I just wanted to say the voices of all those that either fed into our committee and or were on committee is in this framework. And I think that's something that I want us to continue to celebrate, because these are the voices of our people. These are the voices of our places that are coming through in this particular framework. And so one of the things that you've received is a pack about what we've been doing since we launched it, because I mean the launch was a feat in itself, but we now have this role to what we call whakatinana or whakahaere this into reality. And so last year, we worked on a process where we're now calling them ambassadors because they know this framework really well. Those that actually contributed to it are now have become these ambassadors. They'll always have a voice for this framework. And it would be silly as a whānau to tell them that they no longer have a connection to this framework just because it's finished. And so they now become these voices for the framework. So we disbanded and we took some time to review what we'd achieved, particularly around processes. Because as much as the people that were involved, there was huge learning curves in the processes that we undertook to make this a success. You know, you had 3 of 6 iwi continuously at the table. We had to continue to make sure that our other mana whenua iwi partners were up to speed with this. They couldn't put a person on the table, but we needed to make sure they were there with us on the journey. There were some community groups and some really important movers and shakers in biodiversity who couldn't stay on. But again, we continued to make sure that they were updated and informed. So we've got a pānui that goes out, a seasonal pānui that goes out to about 500 people to make sure that people are continually updated. We've got an updated website which people can have full access to and can download this framework as and when they need to. They can contact our kaimahi when they need to. So we did some rethinking to establish a strategic direction last year, both Rā and I, and one of it was about kind of peering back. So our ambassadors elected that Rā and I stay on for continuity and that we sit alongside your ELT leaders, Mon and Leanne, and that there's this rangatira to rangatira conversation that happens so that you are provided with whatever information you need internally. So we meet quarterly and there's a terms of reference that guides our relationship in that. We take that very seriously. We want to make sure this is a success, not only for us who are externally focused, because we're externally focused out in the regions, but also internally focused, that internally you are reaping some of the benefits of being a holder of this. And so there is an internal team that's doing some work currently with your staff. It's hugely exciting. I'm kind of like going, wow, it's kind of really neat. But it means we don't, as we're focusing externally to community groups and to key stakeholders in our region, we can focus on that while your team focuses internally. And that's quite an exciting space to be. And so what have we been doing since then? We've been really lucky. We went out on a employment drive last year, a recruitment drive, and we managed to, and she's going to be really embarrassed because she doesn't kind of like getting the limelight placed on her, but we were able to go through a very successful recruitment process, and Lana has been with us for nearly a year actually in October. But we got a 2-for-1 deal, I just wanted to kind of say, in that recruitment round. We were also needing to look at an engagement specialist, someone to do our hononga role with our community and with our iwi and our stakeholders. And so Mona Pauline, Matakahana Bajwa was engaged. And we need to say we grew a member while she was with us, so she just left to have a baby. And so, you know, we're okay with those kinds of memberships being grown internally. And so she, Lana has been brought on to have overall, I guess, management of the project and provides us with that level of advice and provides you with the internal advice. And then Mona Pauline provided an amazing engagement plan and strategy for us and started to undertake that before she left. So we were able to bring them on, and we've also been able to start there's been an internal implementation program being established. They did some really amazing workshops and some research and are about to kind of go to level 2 on that. So it's not my field. We just get updates around that, but certainly excited about where that might go for your internal staff. And then we've focused upon the Tato Pounamu Research Wānanga, which was just held recently, and that was about looking at the entity. So we've got 3 strategic goals, which we set ourselves over this little wee while. Sorry, though, it's in there. It's in your paper, isn't it, Lana? Thank you. And that was to establish a new Māori tūhono structure or entity. That's at number 11. To grow the Māori tūhono movement, that's the Hononga strategy or program of work. And then to initiate some paikura case studies so that people can kind of see how it works. And so we've been focusing mainly on the first 2 for this part of the year, and we're going to start to move into the paikura case studies. And just to say why those are important, we've had lots of people wanting to know, how do I do this? Where do I start? I need support. Can you show me an example? So what we've done is we've got some people who've just championed the framework and are starting to apply it in their work. So we've got a PhD student whose PhD is about utilising Māori tūhono as a framework for the translocation of Puataranga to Wellington. And so that's a great thing it's a new buzz thing, but we've been involved in that project for probably 5 years. And so, she's going to be doing that, and we've got some other smaller projects. Ours a river-based project with Enviro Schools on the Wharemoku River that they're starting to utilise, or we're starting to utilise that information in their Mountains to Sea are really keen to jump on board. There's a whole lot of others that would like to put their case studies up of how they're utilising the framework. And the key is that we need to, provide some resourcing and some support for people to know that they can start wherever they're starting, and that there's some support there. So I'm going to tag.
Cool.
Yeah.
Kia ora everyone, I just got tagged. Sorry, yeah, right on this one here. Ko Rawiri Taku Ingoa. Usually we start our PPR with a maunga, and I'd like to start with our maunga as Rimutaka. And Rimutaka is a little bit about what our region's about. Because Te Tau Pounamu, a Tātou Pounamu, sorry, is a green stone door. And so that Rimutaka was the green stone door. And it was an agreement between Wellington Māori and Mararapa Māori about having Rimutaka as the place that could be a safe travel, and that people would be able to come back and forward past there. I don't know if you've ever been on a car ride over there, so saying safe travel might not be too accurate, but the safe travel in terms of being able to travel in peace. And it came at the end of a term called the Musket Wars, and that our province then is a little more, and our region is a little more about the Te Tau Pounamu. And so, while that's a lovely historical fact, how does that work today? Well, it works today as if the peace that we can have is in our environment, and that the Te Tau Pounamu greenstone door is the environment that we welcome everybody to find some peace in. And then the thing that we would say a little more is that connection to that life force is an important part, and this could be and I think it is the character of our province. And so we've looked at rather than in Māori for very good reason say that tangata whenua. And sometimes we apply to people who aren't tangata whenua, tiriti whenua, tangata tiriti people in as another group. And we were looking at adding a third group that's actually a combination of both of those groups, a group called tangata taia. And so the people of the environment, people shaped by the environment, and those types of things, and celebrating that. And so what we have next is just a little bit about the hub that we're talking about, and it's to do with the research that we're having to look at how we progress Māori tūhono to a wider group, and think about the transformation that we're looking for in our community. And so we'd just like to play the next video that's a little short from the hui that we held on August the 12th.
Monica's going to so love that. Not.
You two did it.
We didn't do it. Sound. It's all right. Renee will sort it. She's good like that. Yeah, I'm glad it's not me too. What would a hub do? It will do what iwi have always done, which is actually to bring people together. And I see that as a really strong model and an ethos that weaves through Māori tūhono, is that we really are about the people.
To do the work that we need to do with and for Te Taio takes a whole ecosystem of people, and a hub would enable us to be able to come together in terms of working on that mahi and towards the same outcomes together.
I'm really loving seeing tomorrow's decision makers formulating what it is that this system of Māori tūhono will be in its community shape and form. It's exciting to see so many people who are so committed to this kaupapa, who are living it, and who want to share it.
It's really great meeting a whole range of people who are, I was going to say same mind, but I want to change that to the same heart.
The reason we're here today is we're hoping the framework can be applied elsewhere in other organisations, and we can become an ecosystem of people all working for Te Taio and with Te Taio.
Some of us are kaitiaki, not associated with trusts or other things, but get out on the whenua as kaitiaki and do our job. So how do we become more inclusive and have people understand, let's be part of the conversation?
I'm relying on humans to actually write and restore the way that we live in the environment, the way we make decisions on the environment.
And so what I think is we've got enough critical mass now of whānau who are really committed to the kaupapa, who just want to do the mahi together. So if that's one strategy that the hub can help with, is kia mahi naitahi, koe ngā te mea nui kia hau.
So as you might appreciate, we've been engaged in transformational change. And we had a young man, and to be fair to him, as he made a presentation this morning from Mana College saying, I'm going to be with us for 1 year. And I'm just thinking to myself,
such a rangatahi.
Yeah, good luck. I'm pretty sure I said that in 1990. I'll be here for 1 year. But the thing that, and he was really talking about the project, but as a person who's a tangata taio, he's going to be a lot longer than a year. And this is about who we are. And I want to thank you in terms of looking at a project that's a little more transformational, as opposed to the different ways that we can think about things, and the different structures and the other ideas that sometimes come when we need to often address a transformational change in our thinking, and that's the component that we're looking at. And so the hub that we want to go on with is has had some research. We're going to finish that in September. But we again want to thank you for that opportunity. We see it as an opportunity not only to do forgive me for saying it this way, but a Greater Wellington project. But we see it as an opportunity to do a community project, a project for our region, a project for our people. And that's a brave call by you to be backing me. And a part of that is the budget, and thanking you for the budget that's been a part of that. But I would say about that, if you're ever going to think about making transformation or change with the budget, usually you overspend the budget. And I just want to report that we underspent. And so there's a few things about where we're going on to, and one of those things in the next slide is a little more about the group that we're thinking about bringing together, and it is about everyone everywhere, and thinking about that as a place, and that's the ethos behind creating tangata taio, or actually just having people realise that they are tangata taio, and that connection to their space. And sometimes we think, when we start to compartmentalise things, how does this apply to our traffic and the kind of entity that we have in terms of the trains, etc. If you're going into work and this is the environment that surrounds you as you come past, you can see that maintaining that by having public transport is an important component. And so we think that the tangata, we know that the tangata taio can be a whole range of things for our community and for you as Greater Wellington, but more importantly for those of us that are living in Wellington, or in the Wellington region. So just wanted to mihi kia ora koutou.
Okay. So I just wanted to go for what's in your packs before I close out. What you've got is the two karakia, which are available inside the framework, and there is a translation in the English version, so you've got that actually in your pack as well. They're really important, ruruku, actually, they're ruruku, because when we went to launch Māori this framework, these were some of the karakia that we gave in our own environmental spaces on the launch week. And I wanted to kind of acknowledge that they're there as a resource for people. So many people say, oh, I don't have the right karakia. And I go, you do, it's in your heart. You are the karakia, right? You are the blessing. And so hopefully, whether you stay on or you move forward into this next pathway, that you take these karakia as ways to utilise in your own work in the taio. So the opening karakia or ruruku that open a space and open a place up. And then there's a closing one as well. And so you can use them, and we want you to use them. That's what they're there for, because every time we speak these into the environment, into the taio, we add our part of us to this transformational shift that we want to make. And so I just wanted to mihi atu kia koutou katoa, you have that. And you have a bottle, an empty one. No reflection of yourselves, of course. It's actually to encourage you to go to your sacred water spaces, to your rivers, to your moana, to your sea, wherever it is that calls you, and to utilise that opening karakia as you gather water, and fill your bottle and fill it with your intentions for that space and that place. And we use that, it's a wai whakawātia, and we use it as a clearing or a protection spray. And so sometimes when you're in a heavy meeting, sometimes these meetings can get heavy. You can bring a piece of home with you and have a spray. And you will always have that with you. And so it's a way for us to offer you a tatou pounamu, and it's your own personal tatou pounamu, your place of peace, humility, and your covenant with your sacred places and spaces. So that's what the empty bottle is for. Okay, so I'm going to finish on this note, and this was the letter that we started with. And it says this, and I believe that you've actually honoured your word. To my dearest mokopuna, I write this letter happy that in your grandchildren's lifetime, everyone everywhere has realised their collective responsibility to Te Taiao. Before you were born, we reimagined our thriving, diverse natural places. All of our native creatures and birds safe and protected. We dreamed of the swirling tails of tunaku wharawhara and kokopu, happy in their pristine watery homes. We seeded thoughts of wild healing forests, vast cleansing estuaries, and how together they first heal the land, the water, and then the people. We are thankful things have changed. Moko, these are the precious gifts your ancestors talked about leaving you. Now we ask that you look after this very special place of ours, Te Upoko Te Ika, that you truly understand kai pupuri taonga and inherit all of our natural treasures. For you are our future and we are all of your past. Aroha nui, koro rangi nui, e nani tuanuku. Nō reira, kia koutou, kia tātou, te hei, mauri ora. You want to sing a waita?
No.
No, you're good. I just thought you looked
moving
like
back
you
from
could
the
do
mic.
that. Kahuri.
Oh, thank you. Because it's like lots to reflect in here. And I was just thinking to myself how we're having a day as we do draw nearer to the end of our training, and some papers here that are kind of about a lot of what's been going on and the impact that we've made around the table. For example, a paper coming up about what investment we put into our long-term plan and what is that now delivering in real terms. So while we've had a day of welcoming our community in and listening to them, which is very inspiring, also it gives us reflection. So again, thank you for your reflections. I'll be going down to the Otaki River, of course, that's mine, my special place. And, there's always a time at this part of the training to reflect about what our footprint is. And so I just want to check. So these here are the karakia, and which is the what?
That's the one, open karakia.
Yeah.
And the other one is your closer one.
Right.
Sunrise, sunset.
Right. Yes. So I just want to say that if it's okay, because I've done the opening karakia today, and usually I have a different karakia, but we'll perhaps all say this one together today when we close. Okay, so that's that one there. Sounds good. Thank you. So I'll invite, has anybody got any questions? Oh, we have Councillor Duffy and then Councillor Staples.
Ngā mihi o tō koutou kōrero I tēnei ata, te hōma. As Chair Gaylor alluded to, at this stage of the training, we as councillors reflect on 3 years, what's been done, what we've learnt, and we pass on some thoughts to the new council to pick up the mantle from us. Two of the things mentioned in the framework are that we need to have courageous conversations and also that we need actions in some cases urgently. What would you encourage us to pass on to the next council's environment committee as what some of those courageous conversations and urgent actions should be in Te Taiao or the region.
One of the things that was very overwhelming at the research wānanga we just held a couple of weeks ago was how much people want to be together and want to learn from one another and want to support each other's projects. That's what I heard. No matter where I sat, people were sharing their ideas, good, bad or other, their successes, their failures. They were identifying areas that they felt that they could have done better on, and therefore were getting some, it was like a supervision session, really, all day. And I was just hugely overwhelmed about how powerful bringing people together is. And so I guess when I ask about the various very important kaupapa that people bring to before you, they're all important. So I go, they are all important. There's no one higher than the other. But the fact of the matter is, when I sat here listening to the three presentations prior to us, I thought, oh my gosh, we could all be, there's people in our midst that could actually support with that. And it's not costing $1, to be honest, to have a conversation with a neighbour or with someone in another region or in another district. And so I guess the thing, Quentin, is I just say there's power in knowledge, there's power in sharing wisdom and experience, and people just want to be together. They want to connect with each other, let alone their special places. So if you can put that as something to think about, because it's about the weave, how you weave it all together. And you hear far more than we ever will know. But it's always about the weave, and that's what Mauri Tūhono, it's the hono of Mauri ki te Mauri, of people coming together because they care. So that's my one thing. Did you?
I just sometimes, we had a discussion at Marae, and we had people talking about flood protection as a protection for assets. And just thought to myself that we've undermined our environment as an asset. And that our taiao, the asset that it brings us, is a huge component that sometimes we're in the art of protecting private property, but not our environment. And that sometimes one is sacrificed for the other. And that actually a whole range of our difficulties could be based on our native-based solutions. And so that rather than thinking about building walls in terms of protecting and stopping, why don't we produce more wetlands and to take up some of the water and thinking about how that component can be a part. And so just if there was a thing of passing on is that actually we should be investing in our environment, and that's what an environment committee should be thinking about.
I just want to share, as I mentioned earlier, that on Saturday the kapiti had a predator-free kapiti hui, and it's exactly that. Everybody was so buzzed and enthused to know that they're not alone in what they're wanting to achieve, and how do I work with others and learn from others. So we had James Wilcox from Predator-Free Wellington sharing, and somebody else from the Porirua Predator-Free. Everybody wants, they see the benefit from all that. So thank you. Councillor Staples.
Thank you, Councillor Gale. Whenever I look at Mori Tuhana and read and hear, it connects at a spiritual level, and so I feel really crass asking a couple of questions, nuts and bolts questions. And because we're under terrible pressure with budgets, I'd just like to, this question's probably directed perhaps at our officers, or maybe you can answer. As you go into a standalone entity, will you still be employed by greater? I just need to understand how that's working and how the funding is working. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to take the funding away or whatever. And my second question is, on Tuesday at Te Tiriti Committee, we were presented with Rangatane's iwi Environment Management Plan. So, and on Wairarapa Moana Statutory Board, we are still on first base, but we're getting towards getting our statutory documents underway. And of course, they're pretty major documents, and I'm just trying to get my head around how this all fits so that it, it gels and we're all working towards the same thing.
I'll go for your wonderful first question and then I'll do the second. Okay, so part of the research project that has been recently completed is to provide a very stringent evidence-based model for the entity setup. So they have done desktop research for us and identified a mix of different models that we need to probably be thinking about once they've finished the research. And the second phase of that evidence-based research was to bring in our community and you saw that, undertake their view, their voice, their decisions around what that might look like. And so we engaged Varian, who is, what were they, Colmar Brunton before, to undertake this research for us so that we make, and part of it is that decision, is about what will happen with funding, what will happen in terms of entity structure, what will happen in terms of the way in which we work with community in terms of that setup. So while we might have ideas, we don't have all the answers yet, and we want to make a really good strategic decision. So the research counts. Moving forward, we would expect the money to still provide the regional focus that we've got, because that's really where it's got to go. And we would not be too shy to be looking for additional funding to help to support whatever that aspiration is in the region. So again, probably we've all got more questions than answers too, but hopefully that provides you with the pathway we're using to make sure we make good decisions.
One of the questions that and I've been lucky enough to look at the Rangitane model and been able to think about how things are happening there. But I wanted to address a question that goes from a spiritual component down to a real life component, and how does this actually work? And there's unfortunately and I'm a religious person, but a old joke where somebody was struggling in the sea, and two people came along first to try and rescue, and then another person was thinking about pulling the person in on a net, and the person struggling in the sea rejected both offers, and then was praying for the opportunity to be saved by an angel. And then when arrived in heaven, said, well, I was asking for an angel, and the person said, well, I sent two, but you didn't want them either. And so sometimes the spiritual component is a little more about a whole range of things that can happen at a different pace. And we need to see the spiritual component as a part of that. Here's an example that I actually will take from the Rangitane model. So there's an atua in Māori called Hine Kaurahia. And Hine Kaurahia is the goddess of reflective water. And so that as you look down in the water, you see this reflection, and it's such a soothing area. And around Wairarapa Moana, there's just a whole range of places that are places where peace was made. And so the reflective nature there is also a way that people look at releasing stress in terms of mental health things. But if we were looking at what's a component that we were wanting to look at in the Environment Committee and for the people who are working in the environment area, it might be about how to bring that reflective quality back to our lake. And so that's talking about a higher quality in terms of our environment. And so a number of things that we could be thinking about in terms of lake quality and water quality. And so and one of the things in the Wairarapa Moana Statutory Board is to be thinking about protection, restoration and enhancement as those three actions around Lake Wairarapa and Wairarapa Moana. And so in terms of taking that spiritual view and saying, what's the measure of our lake when it's spiritually satisfying? It's when it's reflective. And so how can we then start to think about our reflective lake as being our water standard that we try and achieve in terms of our lake? And by the way that we do that is by enhancing our lake. And so I'm trying to show that there's a connection between the spiritual component, the component that we're trying to reach, and then what things can happen from that in terms of activities that might be around the lake and how that can add to the spiritual quality of our lake. And so that transformational change and then starts thinking about what we've been putting in Māori Tūhono, thinking about actually how do we make these kind of, and some people might say, oh, they're lovely feel-good things, and after I feel good, I'll move on. It's a whole range of action about how to do things as well. And so part of that change of thinking or that transformation we're asking for in shifts in Māori Tūhono is asking a wider community to think about some of the things that are, subjective or emotional or heartfelt. And those are the types of things that we are looking to in terms of then saying, what does that mean around this table? What does that mean to the people who are working around our communities? What does that mean to the people who have got some responsibility for working in Lake Wairarapa? And these are the things that we want to say to them about.
I just want to make one final comment about that because I know we're probably over time, but inside the framework, if you go to the framework 7 interwoven strands, they provide a starting point for anyone in undertaking taiao mahi or in the taiao. And so you can start with any one of those, and it's an opportunity for a dialogue, I guess, about a starting point. So, for example, I was just sitting there with one just then, with Te Manawarua, the taiao endures. And so if you start there, you can there's kind of a pattern in the framework which says, where are we now? So that takes us back to what I was saying about reflect on where we've been, what's worked, what hasn't, and what's before us right now. And then where do we want to go with this? How are we going to move forward? And so that's another conversation about moving forward. What's the first step? What's the plan? Those sorts of things. And then who else do we need to involve to put together a set of actions to start moving this forward? And so some people feel a little bit threatened that there's 7 and that they have to have, I'm a little bit like that, I like them all. But just start with one. And what we find is each one of those strands interconnect, they interweave. In the end, you're using the whole lot. And so I just wanted to say, for us, it doesn't matter where you start. There's actually always a starting point in this framework which you can turn to as a guide. And that's all this ever is. It's just a guide because the importance is our relationship inside of Te Taiao. no reira kia koutou katoa, he mihi kau atu kia koutou, mai i a Ranginui, tai atu kia Papatuanuku, mai nā mātua tūpuna nā rātou i kawe i korowaiti e a tātou i tēnei wā. Kia koutou i tō koutou haerenga whakamua, haere tō tika, haere i runga i te aroha i te rangi Māori e, no reira kia koutou, kia tātou tihei, mauri ora.
Mauri ora.
Kia ora, thank you very much. So appreciate your time and effort and all that you're doing. And for me, reflection around the word we often use in the environment of sustainability, but also another one is actually stickability. Stickability. It doesn't have to be any particular individual, that there's a movement that stays with. Yeah. So thank you for staying with, and yeah, thank you very much. So I think we'll it's all good. Thank you. Gosh. And as I said, when we close our meeting, we are all going to do this karakia together because I haven't practiced this one. So now item number 7, everybody. And Chris, is Chris here to talk to us? Hi, Chris. Ah, boy, that's always a tough one to follow, eh? But we're in a very, really good zone, I think, today, eh? With some very good topics. So, welcome, and is there anything you want to lead in with?
Yeah, kia ora koutou. Ko Glenn Whakana Toku Ingoa. I'm the Pests Animal.
Oh, Councillor Connolly.
I'm team leader for Pest Animals team. I've got Chris Coslett here with me. He's been helping plan this work, and we'd like to give you an update on this exciting groundbreaking project in the Wainui Mata Rongorongo catchment. There's been a lot of interest in this project at initial level, with others that are really keen to help out and learn from what we're doing, and the innovation that will bring to ungulate management. Hand over to you, Chris.
Thank you, Glenn. You're going to stick around? Might be a question you can answer later. Tēnā koutou, my name's Chris Coslett. I am, or for the last year, I've been planning this project, and I'm now in the first stages of managing the early stages of it. I'm aware that we're a little tight for time, so I'm going to go quickly and try and leave plenty of time for questions at the end. Okay, so at the outset, just to clarify, there are there is currently a proposal for a predator-proof sanctuary in this area that is separate from our project. Our project is funded through the LTP by Greater Wellington, and it is looking at the control of ungulates, that's deer, goats and pigs, and it's across the whole of the water collection area, whereas the other proposal is just looking at the Wainui Mata catchment, which is half of the total area. There is overlap, obviously. There is also considerable uncertainty about whether that other project will proceed. At this point, it's being promoted, but it would need significant funding from multiple agencies to make it happen. So we're proceeding on the basis that it may or may not happen, and leaving room for it to happen within the staging of our project. But if it were to happen, it would be of great benefit to our project. If it doesn't happen, then we can still complete our project. So the area that we're talking about is the 74 square kilometre water collection area, the headwaters of the Wainui Mata and Rongorongo rivers, all managed by Greater Wellington. The important thing to note, and we'll just zoom into the next map, which gives a little more detail there, it's got private land on the west and the north boundary. On the eastern and southern boundary, that's all public conservation land managed by the Department of Conservation. That has big implications for our project. Within the Wainuiomata catchment itself, and this is the reason that the proposal is to put the predator-proof sanctuary there, it's some of the best existing forest in the North Island. It's quite a rare forest type, particularly in this region, because most of that high quality lowland podocarp hardwood forest was logged, burned, and turned into farms. Because this area was set aside very early as water supply catchment, it didn't suffer that fate. And so now, by virtue of that history, it is a jewel in the crown of the Wellington region. So there have been goats and pigs in this bush since 1850, possibly even earlier. We're a little unclear, but certainly no later than 1850. And we have a record of red deer having been released there in 1898. So the animals have been there for long enough to have really transformed the forest. Essentially, the situation in there is that there is no palatable plants within the bit of the forest that deer and goats can reach. In the 1950s, the New Zealand Forest Service began controlling these animals as part of the whole of the Rimutaka range. So it used to control deer, goats and pigs within the Rimutaka Forest Park, and as part of that work it would also do the water collection area at the same time. And their control campaign was very intensive, such that by the end of each year's program it would be difficult to find any animals left in that whole area. Department of Conservation took over, and their budget was for ungulate control was systematically reduced from the beginning until it ceased altogether in 2011, except for sporadic control, and that's only in the Rimutaka range. They pulled out of controlling in the water collection area earlier than that. And so in order to counter that, Greater Wellington started its own hunting program in 2000 and has run that ever since. But despite 25 years of control by Greater Wellington, the intensity has not been enough to reduce those populations to a point where the forest can start to recover. We're at the situation where the forest is totally depleted of palatable species, and it only takes a relatively small number of hungry animals to maintain that situation, because they are looking for every palatable seedling they can find. Because the control has effectively stopped on the dockland to the east and the south, numbers in those areas are higher than has ever been known, well, certainly in living memory. I know people who were involved in the early days of the Forest Service control, and they say that the numbers now on that land are higher than they've ever seen. And so the implication of that is that the water collection area, no matter how much work Greater Wellington does, it's just constantly being reinvaded from that surrounding public conservation land. Not blaming DOC. They do what they can, but they just don't have the budget. This is an illustration of what I was talking about with all the highly palatable plants missing from the forest. So this is an exclosure plot. It's a 10 by 10 metre area which has got a deer-proof fence around it, and that was set up in 27 years ago. This, it should be noted, is under an area of very heavy canopy, so it's really shady, and so under those circumstances the recovery of plants is slow. But even so, we can see that over that time there's been a bit of quite a dramatic change, and the change is entirely in palatable plants. So on the left is inside the fence, and on the right is 5 metres away from the photo on the left, on the outside of the fence. And what's on the forest floor there on the left is our splenium ferns, which are a favourite of goats and deer, and some pate or seven finger, which is also a favourite. and you just do not see those on the forest floor outside that 10 by 10 metre exclosure plot. Those highly palatable plants exist only as either really old trees, arguably older than the time that the deer and goats have been in the forest, or as epiphytes perching on other trees above the reach of those animals. So we're very grateful that the council allocated this funding through the long-term project, the long-term plan. We are targeting all 3 species. The objective of the program is to eliminate them and to keep them out in perpetuity. And what we hope to achieve by that is that the forest will be able to regenerate, and in particular, all of those highly palatable plants will be able to repopulate the forest. And what's really important about that, apart from obviously slowing down runoff and improving the water quality for the public water supply, is that the plants that are missing are the fruit-bearing plants, which are the ones that support lots of birds. So it's not only that the forest, the plant communities are suppressed, it's that the animal communities that those forests support are also being suppressed because there's just not the food there for them. So how are we going to do it? Well, over the last year, we looked at the budget and we looked at what we could do with it and how we could apportion it to various project components, and we are pretty confident that we can do it using these tools. So at the moment there is a fence, and I'll show you a map in a moment of there's a fence on the western and northern boundaries of the area which keep animals out from the private land. We are proposing to fence the boundary with the public conservation land so that we don't have to keep dealing with that constant reinvasion from the east and the south. On top of that, we're looking at really ramping up the control on those 3 species of animals, and all options are on the table. We think that traditional hunting using indicator dogs, that's pointers, will probably do the lion's share, but we aren't ruling anything out because we know that particularly as we get later down the track towards zero, finding the last ones and getting rid of the last ones is going to be a really big ask, and so we will need to use all available options to do that. Worth noting that a lot of the deer that are shot in there currently are shot on a small number of grass clearings, which are largely a vestige of the decommissioning of the old Moreton Dam in the 1990s. So they decommissioned the Moreton Dam because it was an earthquake risk. The lake drained out, left behind bare ground. Since then, most of that has been repopulated by second growth forest, but there are some areas which have stayed as grass, and those are deer magnets. And so when I say they're managed grass clearings, what we're proposing to do is to actually manage those clearings as little farms to make, to keep the pasture as nutritious and as attractive as possible, and the deer come from miles around, and our thermal night shooters can shoot them on the grass. So as well as keeping them out and killing them inside the fence, we are going to really step up the monitoring, which will show us if we're achieving what we're trying to achieve, and it'll also help us to track down the last ones as we get towards zero. And the game cameras, we've already put out a network of game cameras in the forest. Those will be really important as time goes on in finding those last ones. This is illustrating the fence project. So the blue line is the existing fence between the water collection area and the private land. The yellow line is our proposed fence running along the crest of the Remutaka Range and then across the floors of the 2 valleys. It's really challenging, really ambitious, but we've got a fence design that we think will work. We're hoping that we can do it without cutting down any trees, and people look a bit askance when you suggest that, but It's actually already been done in a couple of places in New Zealand. So rather than bulldozing a swathe through the forest to create a big wide open area that you then build a fence down the middle of, what we're proposing to do is to weave it through the trees in a series of shortish straight lines, and to leave the canopy of the forest intact above the fence. Small branches will fall, and occasionally a whole section of forest will blow over, and that will necessitate a major rebuild, 50 to 100 metres at a time perhaps. But for the most part, those little branches that come down, dropped from the canopy, will bounce off the top of the fence because it will have a strengthening, a reinforcing wire on the top of it for exactly that purpose. We're not proposing to use any major machines, so the poor fencing contractors are going to have to do it all by hand, including levelling the ground. But the really exciting thing is that Waratah Fencing in Australia have actually developed a kit set fence design which is perfect for what we're trying to do, and they've developed it specifically for the purposes of excluding feral deer and pigs. So it's exactly what we need. And this is the design. So it's all steel. They've beefed up the standard Waratah fencing standard to a really big, strong thing that acts like a big deer post does. And the critical thing is that on the bottom of the netting, there's a hinging apron which is screwed to the ground. Pigs and goats get through fences by going under, and deer by going over. So the height of the fence is a standard deer fence height to stop the deer jumping over, and the fence will have this securing apron on the bottom, which will mean that that pigs and goats can't push underneath. We're currently working with Department of Conservation on a cross-border agreement. As I said before, there's very high numbers of all of the three species on the other side of the boundary. So we are seeking agreement with DOC that our contractors can work on their side of the border, and also a reciprocal arrangement will see their contractors able to hunt on our side of the border. That buffer hunting on the DOC land will be really important until the fence is complete. But even after the fence is built, deer and goats and pigs will run up and down the fence looking for a way through. So any control that we can continue to do on the outside of the fence will reduce that pressure. The problem is, as soon as an animal finds a hole, it will go through. And if they're constantly running up and down looking for a hole, then you have a tree fall on the fence and they will find that gap. That's indicative of what some of the country up there is like, by the way. That below me, standing on the edge of that, looking down there, it was pretty intimidating. If you went down that slide in front of me, you would never come back. And also, there's a chocolate fish for anyone who can spot the three goats in that picture. But you don't get much time. Sorry, I'll go. So, thus far, we've written the plan and we've done a draft budget, and we think that with the available resources we can make it. We've planned 40 new kilometres of track, and we've started on the construction of those. We are planning to upgrade a shed into a hut and to build 2 new little bivvies, and that means that hunters can stay in the bush rather than having to travel long distances each day. They can be right on the spot, step out the door in the morning and they're already hunting, so that's more efficient. We've installed our 60 game cameras, and we've done 2 rounds of quarterly monitoring of those, and we've got approximately 70,000 images of animals we've analysed. So we've got a lot of background data, baseline data. We've had early discussions with all of the mana whenua who have an interest in this area, and we've also been having discussions with a group who under Taranaki Whānui are building up their contracting capacity, and they are interested in getting involved, and we're interested in involving them. We just have to help them build their capacity so that they can fulfill some of those roles. Thermal aerial hunting, we thought, was going to be the silver bullet. This is where the helicopter flies above the forest with a very powerful thermal camera, finds animals through the trees, and then points them out using a military grade laser to a shooter who sits behind the camera operator, who has a thermal sight on the rifle and shoots the animal. And we thought initially, encouraged by a contractor who offers the service, that we were going to be able to take care of a large proportion of the animals using it. So on that basis, we funded a couple of trials, and unfortunately it was quite a washout. They managed to find a couple of animals that weren't visible to the naked eye, but essentially just looking was spotting almost as many animals. So we're back to having to do most of the work on the ground, which is okay. We've got means to do that. Hunting with dogs and hunting with thermal particularly. And we've also, sorry.
Oh yeah, just a couple of questions. The cameras, which you
Yes.
mentioned, are they live notification ones?
Unfortunately not. That would be ideal. We have a couple operating in the catchment, but the critical thing is you've got to have 4G coverage. We don't have that in any more than about probably 1% of the whole catchment. So as soon as you get in there, you lose cell phone coverage.
Okay. Yeah.
Long term, in the next couple of years, we're expecting that technology will become available via satellite. And so that is something that we're definitely looking towards. And particularly later in the project, when we're looking for those last animals, if we can have a camera that notifies us that it has seen something, we can respond rather than waiting 6 months to find, oh, there was something there, we'd better send a hunter in there to find it.
And the second question, the thermal sensing.
Yeah.
Is it using drone technology, or is it
It
on
is
foot?
both. So at the moment, the hunters who do the night work in there are using thermal. They'll put a drone up to look ahead of where they're going to hunt to locate where the animals are. Then they can plan their hunt based on that. And then they have thermal sights on the rifles and thermal monoculars on their helmet. And they walk around like RoboCop, looking with one eye and shooting with the other.
Because I tried the same thing with shooting rabbits.
Yep.
Having a spotter using a laser.
Yep.
And that works.
Yeah.
Can you? So if it's okay, I know we've got another question coming up, but should we just go through the slides? Yeah, we'll do that. Just thinking about time. Yeah.
So here is our camera layout. This is actually a slightly out of date map. We've filled in a few of the gaps now. We did an analysis of the home range sizes of all of the species that we're looking at, and the least mobile of all the animals that we're targeting are nanny goats, which tend to have a home range of about 200 hectares. So our camera density is 1 per 130 hectares. We hope that that means that over the course of a year, as animals move around, every animal will interact with at least one camera. So we did a desktop exercise to create a rough map, and then we went into the bush and did a detailed search and found the best spot for each camera, which is essentially where a network of trails are all forced by topography. You have a narrow ridge crest and all the trails coalesce into one, and then they flare out again, and you put your camera where all the animals are going to have to walk past it. As I said earlier, we don't have 4G transmission out of there, so we are forced to manually service them. But that's okay, everybody enjoys going for a walk in the bush once every 3 months, and so we go in, swap the cards and the cameras out, and bring the cards back for analysis in the office. And very early on, we realised that our cameras that we set up to record ungulates were recording a lot of other interesting information as well, particularly kiwi and predators of kiwi and possums. And so we went and readjusted them so that they're maximising the detection of those animals as well. This is how we've set our cameras up. We made this little innovation using an old recycled bait station with the bottom cut out of it, and that hood keeps the camera dry, and we're hoping that'll make them last for quite a few years. And we don't have the constraint that other people have of having to hide our cameras, because this is an area that's closed to the public. We shared this innovation with Predator Free Wellington, and they were very envious because they'd love to be able to do this with their cameras, but theirs get nicked if the public find them. So the cameras have shown us already that all the places we thought didn't have goats have got goats, just low numbers, but they're there. Some of the animals, particularly billy goats, big pigs, and stags in the raw, travel many kilometres over a month, and those animals, particularly the stags and the goats, they're really easy to detect, really easy to identify as individuals. So we've seen them on multiple cameras. We had one stag that over the raw travelled about 10 kilometres, just in a 10 kilometre wide circle as he was wandering around. Stoats are being picked up on many cameras, as are cats. We didn't think there were many cats in there, but we've been really shocked at how many cats we're seeing. And that's on the negative. On the positive, we're seeing a lot more kiwi than we expected to see, and in places where we weren't expecting to see them. But unfortunately, everywhere we saw a kiwi, we also saw those predators. And so that's told us that we need to get a bit more serious about controlling those animals. So already we've run out some new stoat traps and killed some stoats in places that we weren't targeting them before. And we're just waiting for a reasonable period after the recent 1080 drop so that we can use the cameras to monitor the impact of that drop on the cat population, and then we'll roll out some cat control as well. What was really surprising was that the deer are systematically searching the forest floor day and night for fallen leaves. And this answered a question which we'd had since the beginning of the project was, we've got this forest which has nothing for deer to eat in it. Why are there deer living all through it? And it's because they are eating the leaves that are falling from the canopy. And in searching for those, they are finding all those seedlings of palatable trees. So the palatables just don't have a chance. And there's no reason to assume that that's not the case over most of the country where deer are present. And finally, initially I was, because I was doing the data analysis, I was really disappointed at how many possum photos I was having to process. And then we said, well, hang on. This might actually be a useful monitoring method for possums. So we added possums into the data that we were collecting. What we're planning to test is whether the camera data on possums is comparable with the wax tag monitoring data that we do pre and post a 1080 drop. And it might be that in the long term, we can not have to send people out to do that extra monitoring. The cameras might be adequate to do it for us, since we're collecting it anyway. So, I'll come back. Here's a rogues gallery from the first round of camera data, and I'll just leave that up there while I take questions.
Thanks.
Oh, sorry, there are a couple of things I just want to point out. One, top left, you can see that the kiwi are doing their best to populate the area. And also, next to that, immediately to the right of that one, there's a hind. She's actually picking up yellow fallen leaves. And that hind and the hind that's down to her right, that's looking right up close to the camera, you can see how poor the condition is of these animals. They are really, really skinny, really hungry, and just desperately searching for food all the time. So the forest is depleted, and the population of browsing animals is being, for want of a better word, artificially maintained by the virtue of them being able to eat that leaf fall.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Great. So questions, if we could just manage our length of the actual question and perhaps shorter answers too, just so.
Okay, thank you. Wearing my regional council over the whole region, this is really exciting. Wearing my Wairarapa hat, I sort of come down a bit flatter. So really, how long will it take to build the fence? Obviously, you think it's doable, but it's rocky up there. How are you going to get the waratahs in the ground? It's an Australian waratah fence. It's a lot wetter over here. I hope it's not made in China because the galvanizing's pretty over there. I'm sorry that these are practical,
no.
but this is what comes to me and my colleague next to me. And also, once you get underway with this fence, because it is going to be a challenge, what happens when the budget blows out? Because I say not if, I say when. We don't have any spare money. So these are the things that are going through my mind. And yes, it's exciting for our for the piece of our K&E, but people that I'm talking to in the Wairarapa who can't get any help to stop deer, etc., coming onto their land because that's not our business. It's quite a hard sell from a pest control point of view that we're doing this. Not saying that we shouldn't, but this is what I have to deal with.
It keeps me awake at night, those questions. But yeah, as part of the process of developing the plan, we talked to a lot of fencing contractors, and yeah, we've battered this around a lot. Where we've landed with the fence design is what we think will work, but there is still a bit of uncertainty around it. And to that end, we are planning to do a test section this summer, where we'll get somebody to actually build an actual section of the actual fence on the actual site and see what it is actually like. The contractors I've talked to, one of them has actually built this kind of fence before, admittedly not up on a high ridge, but on Stewart Island, where conditions would be a lot more forgiving. But they used a petrol-powered driver, and they've also been talking about petrol-powered rock breaking tools, so that, yeah, I mean, hopefully some of them will go into the dirt without having to go through a rock, but I agree, there will be some that will hit rocks. Yeah. So the question of the viability and the actual cost of the fence, we plan to answer this summer by doing that trial section. I absolutely hear what you say around deer control on the margins of private land. And unfortunately, this won't be of any benefit to those people because between us and them is that conservation land, which is just got huge numbers of animals on it.
Barbie, you.
Can I just have a couple of questions, given that we farm on exactly the land you're about to put the fence up on? So the larger, as soon as you're going along the ridge, you'll be straight into rock. So that there's no choice, there's nothing else there. And we did a fence sort of 25 years ago, so I do hope that the technology has improved.
Sorry, I'm sorry, I didn't answer another part of that earlier question. I'll just pop that in now because I think it'll be relevant to both. They have designed a bigger waratah, so it's in diameter it's about twice the size of a standard waratah, and it's much more rigid. They've also developed a new weatherproof or a new surface treatment, which is the same as zinc aluminum roofing. So it's not galvanizing, but it's zinc alloy, and they estimate that that surface treatment will last 9 times longer than standard galvanizing. We don't have a problem with wind. We do have a problem with wet. So that forest up in that, the fence up in that cloud forest is always going to be wet.
My question is around, we've got a 250 hectare block of QE2, which is fully fenced from the farm side of things, but on the western boundary it just flows up into the dock estate, we maintain a margin there with a helicopter spraying probably, I don't know, probably about every 10 years we'll take the helicopter down there to stop undergrowth growing into that fence and ruining the structure of the fence.
Yeah.
The concept that you've got is maintaining the canopy, which I think is awesome, if you can. What I'm questioning is how will you look after that and the integral structure of the fence as your canopy starts to grow across it, through it, and the new plants start coming up through against it. And that will immediately break down like mould on a zinc-loom roof. It will, or moss growing, it will immediately get rid of the integral structure of that zinc-loom galvanised treatment. That's why we keep our fences clear. Just figuring out how you're going to manage that.
Yeah.
Sorry, can I just be mindful that we actually have to got 2 more papers, then we have to have lunch, then we have to have a workshop, and we have to have a council meeting that starts. Council workshop that's starting at 2. So I'm just really careful for everybody if we can really nail the shortness, the brevity of our questions, and if it's okay, the brevity of our answer.
I will be very brief. Animals will do it for us, is what I expect, because they'll be constantly running up and down the outside, clearing the outside of the fence and eating anything that pokes through.
Councillor Duthie.
Thank you. Lots of questions, but I'll confine it to a couple. I find it a very exciting project. I hope it's all being written up in a sort of almost like a science paper type thing, because there's so much that can be learnt from what works and what is a challenge. My key question is around the neighbouring community group in the Rimataka Conservation Trust and the work they do on the kiwi, and they will have a question about can the kiwi are in here and moving between, can the kiwi get through this fence or not, and have we engaged with them in terms of how this project relates to their...
I've had a lot of discussions. Initially, the proposal was that we would put holes in the bottom of the fence so that kiwi could go back and forth through it. Then somebody pointed out that kids and piglets could get through those holes, and probably kids and piglets of viable size. And so my thinking is now that we're probably better to treat it like any predator-proof fenced sanctuary and manage the kiwi population inside the fence as if it is a separate population, and if need be, do manage translocations in and out of it.
And to clarify, it's kids of goats.
Yes, sorry. Yeah. The hole that you would need to make in the fence for an adult kiwi is actually surprisingly big. Disappointingly big.
Councillor Nash.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks for this. Just in the interest of time, you don't need to respond to these points. So I was going to say, thank you for saying at the beginning the things you said about the relationship between this and the other significant fenced sanctuary project that we've been considering as a council and as an environment committee. I think it would have been preferable that the report note those points, because as you read it now, there's absolutely no mention of the other project, and it's as if it's sort of, it almost could look like a policy decision that we've decided not to mention it. But I understand from Jack that that's not the case. It's just happens to be not in there, even though it is a related project. I guess the other point I wanted to make, ideally if we could note in the minutes the sorts of things that you mentioned at the beginning, that I think you said if the sanctuary project did go ahead, it would be of great benefit to this project, and that you are leaving space for the sanctuary to go ahead in the way that you're planning this project. I think those 2 points are pertinent. The other point I would add would be that in the feasibility study for the fenced sanctuary project that we submitted jointly with iwi to the government a couple of years ago, there was significant consideration of ungulate exclusion, and so that obviously wouldn't need to take place if this project had been successful, and then the fence sanctuary went ahead. I guess my last point, don't respond to it now, was about asset ownership of the fence all the way around, including on the boundary with the dock estate, and I think some consideration in the financial implications section of this report, of that ongoing OPEX for that asset would be useful, and consideration of that. I know the fence on the western side is it has been challenging, and that's an easier access area than the one you're going to build. So, yeah, but good stuff.
Thank you very much, and we'll conclude there. So, awesome. Thank you. Good luck. Right, moving right into number 8. Oh, sorry. No. I didn't have it on my list. Sorry, Councillor Bassett.
Question, but just one question. Have you given any consideration to sponsoring some of this work?
By sponsoring, do you mean?
What I mean is a business getting involved in it?
No, well, at this stage, no.
Sponsorship.
Okay, just so this evening.
Okay. Yeah. So we
just no. Why I ask the question? Because I think it's very attractive. There's some new experiences you're going to trial here nationally. As a consequence, it could be good for example, a fencing company that you've got to market. That's the sort of strategy that I think you should actually just have a think about.
Thank you. Yeah, we will.
Thank you very much. Great. All right. Thank you. Thanks. That's great. Thank you. So item number 8, Robin Henk. Right. Should we take it as read, unless you want to highlight anything? And then, because I think we might have some questions.
Kia ora, good morning. Yes, Leanne has asked whether we can just do a short presentation.
Oh, yeah, great.
This presentation doesn't have any new information. It's everything that's in the paper already. It's just a really summarized version of the paper.
Right, speed date, kind of.
Yes, very much. Over to Rob.
Yeah, kia ora. Yeah, so this is our opportunity to update you on how we've made use of the additional funding approved for the long-term plan based on the year 1, and we're just going to breeze through 5 areas of focus, which is enhancing our flood risk management, protecting our most important places from pests, restoration of our parks, delivering catchment scale environment solutions, and future natural resource plan changes. So without further ado, I get to do one of those. There we go. Cool. So one of the key areas for additional funding has been in the area of improving our flood risk management operations. And obviously, I guess the context for this is that with climate change, we're just going to face increasing demand for these services, both in terms of the construction of new flood protection structures, making enhancements to our existing systems, and that's just putting more demand on the teams that we have in place. So really this first year has been spent on trying to get the foundations in place for supporting that additional demand and growth, not just growth in our teams, but restructuring the teams to meet that growth in demand and to put some new systems in place. So particularly with our flood ops team, we've introduced new team structure, and we've been able to bring in a range of new staff, and with planned future growth in staff over the next few years. Key things been in the introduction of the code of practice for river management, so changing how we approach river management, and improved capability in numbers. We've got improved capacity for engagement and planning and delivery of those services. This has been supported in tandem with the development of our new consenting management team that are obviously providing support to how we operate, providing support to flood ops, but also support to our stakeholders and other partners that we work with. And really just that additional capacity is helping us to move forward at greater speed with our consenting applications and to generally improve the way we're approaching work within rivers and catchments, and prepping for the introduction of a new consenting management system. So yeah, really that year 1 has been laying the foundations for future growth and anticipating that demand and services in coming years.
Thank you, Rob. I'll go straight into protecting our most important places. So this year we saw us sort of doing more work in the marine pest space, marine biosecurity space. So we've done initial surveys, setting a good baseline for where we're at. We're also looked at increasing awareness, so things like science and things like that have been updated, and we're aligning with Top of the South, thinking of the RPMP that's coming up. How do we actually align with Top of the South and create better assurances within the Strait area? With regards to community pest initiatives, our teams provided funding for Te Awakarangi, Kapiti and Wairarapa groups to increase the amount of pest control that they're doing on the ground. And we also assigned 10% towards pest plants, because it's not just the animals, the plants are also having an impact. In the Wairarapa, it was a really good year, and there were some really good discussions around how do we move forward, what does this year's plan look like, and how can we actually make inroads into following years, and how can we support Wairarapa Moana through GDAP work in that space. Bits and numbers are booming, and we went through a process where the MFE funding finished, and that some of that work now sits in our current operational work going forward. Within Pukaha, we've continued our commitment towards keeping rabbit numbers low. The benefit of that is it actually slows the movement of predators, kind of that predator-prey relationship. And that means that it actually helps quite a few of our other programs that are operating in that space. We've also made inroads with Capital Kiwi and signed an agreement, and the operational plans will be set up to see how that actually rolls out and how we can do the work in this year going forward. And again, trying to link up our programs, understanding that there's quite a few things that kind of try to do the same thing. In Hibandui, there's been a couple of changes with regards to capacity within council. So we're working with contractors to do the planning and bringing mana whenua in quite early throughout the discussions and decision makings, and just identifying that there are ongoing risks that we would need to manage because it's still a forestry block, and having a forestry block and open to the public, there's some considerations there that need to be had. Our planting activity has gone ahead. It's a little bit lower than in previous years, but we're still aiming for 150,000 plants in the ground, which is pretty good effort. And then with our peatland and wetland restoration at different levels, where we've got some of the schemes up and running. In other areas, when we're talking about the peat re-wetting, it's a little bit more complex. It takes a little bit more time to get that information in and come up with a design plan to actually step it forward into the next phase. Then, with regards to delivering catchment scale environment solutions and the NRP, the work with the Houghton Bay groups has actually been really, really fruitful. Some really good relationships there. And there is a report due that will kind of set the direction of what the community and iwi want to do in the space. And it's not just all about what GDAP wants to do in that space. So it's actually set up a really good foundation for the next steps within that area. And then with the plan change one, so notified provisions will remain in place, but there are variations that need to come in with the changes from central government. Sorry, yes, that's as much as I know about that kind of stuff at this point. But we have the floor for questions, and we will be supported by directors and managers who have a lot more in-depth knowledge about it than I do. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, Bo. So questions. Councillor Staples?
Sorry, I'm the stuck record today, but environment's important. Looking at page 54 in board books of our papers, where you've talked about the funding in-kind support to Pukaha, which is great, thank you very much. And then the funding for Capital Kiwi for pest control, which is almost twice as much. So how do I explain to Wairarapa people why Pukaha doesn't get as much? I mean, there'll be good reasons. I just need to know them, please, because I will be asked.
Do you want me to? Do you want to? Thank you, Councillor Staples. Me? I don't know whether I would be able to answer it quite as well. I think there's a long-standing relationship with Pukaha, and that's it's kind of enduring. The funding going to Capital Kiwi
I have to
is
stop you there. It's not that long-standing, and we had to negotiate it through some very tight budgets to get that because I was involved. But
yes.
yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for the correction. I would actually pass this on.
I can just quickly say that the funding that was given was the funding that was asked for. So in terms of the negotiations with Capital Kiwi, they asked for that 230k, and Pukaha asked for the in-kind support for the Alliance, and also that's the funding that came through about everything we needed to do to deliver to the outcomes we wanted. So those were the reasons for the funding. So it's not like Pukaha asked for more and Capital Kiwi asked for less. So yeah, they got what they were, but they required for the outcomes.
Okay, I guess we just have to be very careful that people come along and ask for what they want, and we need to have, I think, when we're looking at external projects, that we actually we need to have some form of evaluation because
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. And I will also just make the comment that in terms of the Wairarapa, so the funding went to Pukaha, and it also went for the Wairarapa Moana project, as well as some of the other sort of projects that are happening through the RPCP program there. So there was increased funding outside of Pukaha as well.
don't get me wrong, I can see the work that's going on in Wairarapa, and I'm very grateful for it as part of our region. Thanks.
Thank you. I don't know if others got a question. I've got a question. Actually, Mafamwe, it might be you back again. So you've heard me talk about that there were predator-free kapiti met on Saturday, and noting that on page 53 we talk about the $100,000 that we put into our LTP to support groups beyond the predator-free Wellington. So we're pretty familiar around here about what our investment into that for Wellington Free gets. What are we actually physically doing with the 100k for other groups? And for example, how will we be tangibly helping and supporting predator-free groups beyond Wellington?
From memory, that was a one-off, the 100k, and that went directly for traps, bait stations, bait for those groups. I believe that the teams looked at which groups are already doing work in that space, and they looked at how they could maximize that by providing them with more tools.
And I can also say, so the community team is coming up with a framework for how we're going to support these groups, and that's going to help us to channel that funding in a really directive way, so it does actually have the most tangible benefits on the ground. And coming up in November, I know it was mentioned at the predator-free community celebration that we had, but there is an event for all of the predator-free groups across the region that's going to be hosted here in Wellington. So that is part of wanting to, I guess, spread that knowledge that's coming out of predator-free Wellington to other parts of the region.
Any other questions? No, that's good. I just, big appreciation for capturing kind of like, the follow-up here. So I really appreciate that we can see what it actually has ended up meaning for our organisation. So thank you. That's awesome. Right, now last item. Leanne Butcher's not here, so Sal.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We'll take the Environment Group update report as read and welcome any questions from councillors.
Councillor Staples.
Only two quick ones. I'm getting the evil eyes from across the. On page 69 of our papers, talking about Featherstone's flood maps. When I'm talking to people in Featherstone around that, they're saying to me, "Now what?" So can we just have a quick heads up as to what the next steps are for that, please? And then 75, the garden fiesta. That was great that Greater Wellington were at the garden fiesta. when you're going to do things like this, could you tell us? So as councillors, we could at least go along and pat them on the back. I mean, it's a public facing thing. This is not a complaint. I was really pleased to see it, but I would have gone along and said hello. So can you, when we're doing public facing events like this, please tell us.
Any other questions? An answer to the first one, thank you.
Via you, Madam Chair, we'll come back to you, Adrian, on exactly what the next steps are. That's all right.
Is it okay, Councillor Staples? Good, right. Councillor Connolly.
You mentioned in your report a very, very unfortunate and quite significant event that happened at the beginning of August around untreated, completely untreated wastewater. Discharging is not quite the right word, spewing into the Te Awa Kairangi at Silverstream. I mean, to give Wellington Water their due, they obviously realised that it had the potential to be catastrophic and were onto it pretty quickly. Just in terms, I'm wondering if you can keep me updated as to when you learn a bit more about the reason for the incident. I'm particularly wondering whether, there are things consumers do to contribute, like putting fat or wet wipes down their toilet, and I'm wondering if that was part of the reason or whether it was just a failure of the asset. So if you could keep me informed on that, that'd be great.
That's it. Cool, thank you. Any other questions? Can I just comment on page 77 under the kapiti items? Just want to say that the Waikana Estuary bed recontouring has gone down really well with our community, and the local company Mills Albert, who did the work, who we use in other spheres and KCDC use for roading, etc. I actually had the pleasure to be talking to Mills of the Mills Albert yesterday, and they loved doing that project with us, and it was really wonderful to hear about the relationship that our staff had with them and how well informed they were as the contractor about the care they needed to take, the benefit. And Dave Mills was so excited, and he was, before I even mentioned it, telling me about the lamprey they'd found that they didn't even know were in there, and all the fish and all that sort of thing. So, I think sometimes we might, I might, others may, sometimes have a misconception that we work with contractors who have got, the blinds on, and just was amazed and heartened how well informed they were. And Jack, what would you like to say about that?
Through you, Madam Chair, I'm aware there wasn't a question in there, and I'm hesitant to break off your flow, which is
I'm the chair, I don't have to do a question.
I did just want to draw the committee's attention to the fact that the environmental work that we did there, in particular the fish transfer that found 9 nationally threatened lampreys and 1,600 fish, etc., was not a consent requirement. That's us giving effect to the code of practice which arose through our Te Awa Kairangi consent. So this is us actually trying to work with the rivers, put in place more nature-based approaches and look after them alongside our flood protection works. Essentially what Matua Rā was talking about through Mauri Tūhono. So we are extending beyond. When we go through consenting, we'll seek to build that into our consent conditions so that it becomes something we also must do. But in this case, it was us and the contractor setting the bar rather than the bar being set for us. Thank you.
Awesome stuff. Okay, no other questions? Okay, well in that case I'm going to close our meeting, and together, if I could ask, and just say thank you very much everybody. Thank you very much to the team of people who put this agenda together. I am a mum. So just want to ask us if we could all help me and together do the karakia, because, oh, cool, that's great. Okay, ready? Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Ngā te kura tai au, tēnā kura nui, tēnā kura noa, kia horaia te mauri ora ki runga, i te mata o te whenua, ka ronga e te pō, ka ronga e te au, whiti whiti tau mai te Māori, humi e, hui e, tai ki e. Awesome. Great. Thank you very much, everybody. Lunch is next door and then back here.